I'll give it one more minute.
I am recording.
Okay, so is it 6 o'clock yet?
It is 5:59.
I don't even see Matt on the list.
Matt, I've just made you the
He's there.
host.
Hi guys, I'm here.
He just got in.
Okay, so it's 6 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. We do have wow, this is gonna get really confusing. There's so many people. I see Mark, Kate, and Dwight. So we got 4, so we can move forward. So the first thing is call the meeting to order. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda for tonight? Okay, hearing none, I want to let you all know that we're going to do a little bouncing around tonight on the agenda for those of you that have the agenda. And the reason is that we've got people that are leaving and people that are coming in that we've asked to join to help us with some topics. So we're not going to be following the agenda exactly as it is in order, but we will be bouncing around. I also want to just make one quick announcement is that after the last Wyndham Central meeting where we had been told that while we're online, we have to do roll call votes. And somebody challenged that last meeting. I think Mark said something that we didn't have to. So I asked Bill to check with the Secretary of State. So as long as it's a unanimous vote, we don't have to do roll call. We just have to do a roll call if anybody votes opposite of the majority of the people. So unless anybody has a problem with that, that's what we're going to do from here on out. Are you good with that, Dwight? Thumbs up. Mark? Kate? Okay. And nobody else has joined us yet from the board, have they? Okay. So then I got members of the public. So I'm going to go around and see who I got for the public. Robin Sapita, you a member of the public? Did you have any comments or questions, or you just want to see what we do?
I have a lot of comments and questions today.
Okay, well, go ahead. You might as well start.
I'm trying to figure out why schools are even open to begin with.
Well, they're not right now.
I mean, they're going to. They're going to be.
Yeah,
And
we're going to have a discussion about that later on because we've got some updates. So, you want
I just have
to talk during that, or do you want to? Are you going to be able to stick around for a little bit?
Oh yeah, I can definitely stick around.
So if that's the only topic that you have, we are going to discuss that. So we'll hit you up when we do that, if that's okay.
Yeah, perfectly fine.
Okay, was there any other topics you want to talk about?
It mostly all revolves around the fact that schools are opening for in-person to begin with. You know, most of that is going to be related to the fact that we have a lot of out-of-state kids enrolling that are still traveling back and forth. You know, the fact that we're having this Zoom meeting right now versus meeting in person, but we want to send our kids to school. So a lot of that is going to be tied into why are we opening schools to begin with if for in-person instruction.
Okay, so that's going to be probably under new business. So I wrote your name down so we make sure we get your input. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Robin. Matthew, are you a member of the public? Is there anything specific, or you just want to see what we all do?
Yeah, I'm just curious, you know, with the email today about the ventilation and what's the solutions are going to be, you know, what the thoughts are on that.
So again, on that, we're waiting. There's one member who's going to help us from central office, but he had an appointment, so he'll be talking to us about that under new business. So I wrote your name down too, Matt. Was that it, or was there something else, sir?
No, that was it for now.
Okay. I'm just going through the list. Tom Oakley, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Rich, how are you?
Good. Are you
Good.
for members of the public?
Yeah, I'm just paying attention. I'm encouraged that we actually are going live 4 days. I think it's terrific. So just want to see that through, and similar to Matt, saw that email and want to see what's going on with the ventilation system.
Okay, so that's going to be in a little while, so if you can stick with us, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you. Heidi, Jennifer, Lauren from the paper. Rich is our, I've got an HANDE handy.
Hi, hello.
I got nothing. Anybody? Okay.
I'm the head here.
Pardon? Handy, I'm going to skip over you because nobody can hear you. I think there's a call-in number you can try that maybe would be better than the internet. I don't know if you've got a bad internet connection.
There's no call-in number.
I'm the Hammett here.
Okay.
Yes,
sorry, there is-
I do have bad connection.
Tracy, you're a staff member, correct? And Mike Jones, Mike, are you a member of the public?
Hi, Rich. Yeah, we're my wife and I are here, Cassandra Welch and I. We have kids. We just moved here where kids are going to Dover, so we're just happy to listen in today. So hello to
Okay.
everyone.
So we're gonna, if you have anything specific, I don't know how we do that, but unmute yourself and we'll get to you when I see you unmuted, okay?
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Hey, Rich.
Yep.
You should probably use the hand raise function so that everybody can stay muted until they're called upon.
Okay, I don't see that.
Matt, do you want to help him as the host?
It's in the participants menu at the bottom. You may not have it. No, you're not hosting, so yeah, you'd have it.
Matt has it.
Matt has it. I'm saying, Rich, if you open up participants, you'll see that option.
Okay, Matt, just let me know if there's somebody that wants to get in, okay? Thank you, Matt. And Jessica Smith.
Yes. Hi. I didn't know if this was the right time or not. You want me to give you an idea of what I'm going to talk about, and then you'll tell me if it's okay?
Yeah, so if it's something on the agenda, we may ask you to wait because there may be more information that may answer your questions.
Yeah, it's not anything about the agenda. It's about my kids and a decision that was made by the school board.
Okay, usually that is an executive session because if it's specific to a student, we don't discuss it in open session.
Okay, because when I had called the superintendent, Mr. Anton, I know you're on the call. I didn't get a call back. I did want to talk to her. I didn't need to do it in front of everybody. I just can't get anybody to call me back. How else am I gonna? And then when you say executive session, were you guys planning on finding me and making an executive session based upon my request to see you?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I didn't see any requests from you, so I don't know.
No, yeah.
But now see, I think there's a lot of people.
I'll
Bill,
wait till the end. I just didn't know when I'm supposed to talk about it, being that nobody called me back.
Rich, Bill has his hand up.
yeah, go ahead, Bill. I don't see for some reason.
Ms. Smith, I spoke with the person in our office today about communication that will be going out to you tomorrow. So I believe you will get your initial answers answered. And if you need more follow-up, you can continue to go through my.
Yeah, I already know what it's going to say. I want to follow up. That's why I was here.
Yes, if it goes to the school board it will be very laid out for you, and I will be happy to make sure that that communication is clear.
Okay, because there was just something unclear. The definition was wrong on the document I got, because it goes by the HUD definition, just so you know.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So Jessica, are you all set?
Yeah, I'm just going to listen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Handy, I saw that you were back online. Do you want to try one more time? And I'll get to you, Peter, in a sec.
Hi, sorry. Yes, I'm home now and I can connect. Hi. So I have a 3rd grader and a 6th grader, and we've been living part-time in Vermont, part-time in New York since 2003. So we are new to the school, not so much new to the area. And thank you. I mean, we are interested in going in person for what it's worth.
Okay, so we're going to have that discussion later on. So if you have any comments, you can there. Was there anything else, or did you just not have nothing else to do on a Monday night? You want to join us?
No, it's not that. I'd like to hear, like, I don't even understand, you know, the opening, like, we're reading now, right? The southern states are ahead of us, and a week into opening, they're all closing. So I guess I just wanted to hear what plan A, plan B, plan C will be. I'm sure there
Okay,
will
so
be.
we'll be discussing that if you can hang out with us for a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, Peter, you had a comment? You're muted, Peter.
Sorry, people should know the chat file will be saved as a part of the public record.
Okay, so unfortunately, guys, there's 2 pages of you. There's so many people tonight. So I cannot, did I miss any members of the public anywhere? Okay, and then just so you know, Rick and Laura are on the phone, so we do have a full board tonight. Thank you, Rick and Laura. Did you guys hear about the voting? We're not going to vote by roll call anymore unless there's not a unanimous vote. That was something Bill found out. If you guys are good with that, just give me a thumbs up. Okay. We've got members of the public review and approve the minutes of the July 20th, 2020 meeting. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, Laura moved. Do I have a second?
Kate second.
Okay, so Laura moved, Kate seconded, that we approve the July 20th, 2020 minutes. Peter, are you good with that? Okay. Is there any discussion from anybody? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Is there anybody opposed? I would say it's unanimous. I would say the ayes have it. The ayes have it. We will move on. Correspondence, I already told you about the voting because I knew we were going to vote on the minutes. And we have a request from an employee for student attendance. Bill, is that executive session?
Yes, it is, but it was correspondence, so we receive it as correspondence, and then we're going to discuss it in an executive session.
Okay. So old business. I had, I'd like to do, Bill had 3 or 4 things we were going to ask him about. He's got about half an hour, 40 minutes with us. So Bill, why don't we start off with administrative update, or I'm sorry, Bill, I lost my piece of paper. What did you need to talk about?
Well, I think it's very important to probably start at the ventilation systems while I'm here, so that I can explain the letter that I received from our COVID coordinator that has been shared with all the board members. It's also linked in the board documents that Mark put up in the chat window. Just to give a little history, our COVID coordinator is something we're required to do by the state of Vermont. It's part of the reopening safe and healthy plan. And they recommend that you take a senior nurse to be responsible for that. And we're very fortunate to have Jordan Dano is our COVID coordinator. She is currently the nurse at Leland and Gray. Last year, she was the nurse for the 3 elementary schools at the West River. So Jamaica, Townsend, and Newbrook. So she's pretty familiar with our area. She's extensive experience. And she has been participating in all of our planning and preparation opening plans. And she came to see me last week, had a conversation about where we were in our discovery of our HVAC ventilation in our buildings, and wanted to communicate to me how she felt about that. So I asked her to write a letter. She wrote me a letter, and I have shared that letter with all of you. And essentially the letter says that, well, I'll just read the first paragraph since we're on Zoom. Dear Bill, as the COVID-19 coordinator for Wyndham Central Supervisory Union, my recommendation is to delay the opening of schools within our district for in-person instruction until the HVAC systems meet the Vermont Agency of Education and the Vermont Department of Health recommendations as published in A Strong and Healthy Safe Start updated on August 11th, 2020. Chris Medina, our Director of Operations, has been working on this since the guidance came out at the end of June. And he was able to get more detailed updates on what is our current condition of our HVACs, in particular to Wardsboro and Dover, and to work with vendors to set up a plan to get them in a place of operation, which is recommended by the Vermont Department of Health Safe and Healthy Guidelines. So it's important to remember that there are many things that are required and there are many things that are recommended. This is a recommendation, but the specifics of the recommendation are that prior to reoccupancy, you should ensure school ventilation system is properly cleaned and meets all required operating standards per the manufacturer, and then ensure ventilation systems operate properly and increase circulation of outdoor air. And so the board has been presented with another document, the RVED, and maybe Matt, this might be, it's up to Rich, but this might be a good time to maybe share that for the public's benefit, so that the board could have a informed conversation, but I'll leave that up to Rich if you want to share that.
Well, so let's do this. So there's going to be a couple decisions, I think. One is going to be whether we go with the recommendation of the nurse and to not open till the HVAC system is fixed. And then the second discussion is going to be fixing the HVAC system. And I think that's more of a Chris Medina issue. So I think the only thing and if anybody on the board disagrees, let's concentrate on the opening the school till the HVAC system is fixed.
Richard, I have a question.
Yep. Go ahead, Laura.
I just want to make sure that I am hearing the right word. So I'm hearing you say that we'll make decisions based on whether or not the ventilation system is fixed, which would indicate to me that it is broken, and that whether or not the HVAC system is fixed. And so my question is, my sense from reading was that the ventilation system needed to be cleaned and maintained and tested. It may not be broken. I'd just like to be clear about the words, so I'd like to get some clarification, and that the HVAC system would be something new that we would have to invest in, that we would have to purchase. So I just want to make sure that we're very careful about what it is, what the actions are that we're talking about with these two things. So can I get some clarity on that?
So we have two decisions we have to make. There is a recommendation that there's some work that should be done to the HVAC system before we open school, correct, Bill?
That is correct.
And then we have to make the decision, are we going to have the work done or not, and how we're going to pay for that. Okay, so I think there's two separate decisions. I think Bill is involved in one. Do we open the school before all the recommendations on the HVAC system? And I'm not saying broke, but I believe the one in Wardsboro needed some repairs. We've been discussing that for a couple of years. So whatever, there's stuff that needs to be done. So I think that we can, to make it easy, we break it into two questions, and we work with one question with Bill is, do we open before all the HVAC testing and whatever tinkering needs to be done? And then the second question is what are we going to have done, and how are we going to cover it? Bill, is that?
Yeah, I think Matt may have something to add.
You have a hand up in the chat is all I'm wanting to alert you to.
Okay, well, hang on a second, because I'm so confused now. Mark, go ahead.
So two questions, Bill. The HVAC, the RVED document broke down into three stages, I believe. The first one was PM. So this is a two-part question. One, isn't PM done on an annual basis anyway? And two, what of those stages do we need to get to be in within the recommendation of the state? And then for Rich, do we want to discuss policy 825 before we get to making a decision about whether we want to open?
Go ahead, Bill.
So the wording, as Laura pointed out, is very important. So the things that we're talking about are ensuring that the school ventilation system is properly cleaned and meets all required operating standards per the manufacturer, and that ensure that the ventilation systems operate properly and increase circulation of outdoor air. And the standard is the ASHRAE standard. And so as it's been laid out for you in a three-pronged approach, is that, yes, Mark, you've got to do the preventative maintenance that ideally is done every year. So we need to do the preventative maintenance to find out where we are in being able to operate these systems. Then we need to order the parts, if there are any parts necessary, in order to complete the preventative maintenance. And then we have to do the ventilation test to measure if it is in compliance with the ASHRAE standards. Then, as Rich pointed out, you're going to get to the next stage of, are you going to do a complete fix? Are you happy with the results of the ventilation? Does it make it comfortable? Does it make it okay? These are recommendations. These are not requirements. So getting back to Laura's initial point, at some point, the board's going to have to decide if they're going to follow the recommendations and how far they're going to follow the recommendations, or if there is some other metric by which the board would like to decide.
A quick follow-up, just because I know we're going to lose you shortly. The system at Wardsboro, which we've known needed some work, are we able to get, has any attempts been made to get money from the state? I don't remember the name of the program that they called it, but I see Tammy nodding.
So Mark, I'm going to rule that should be discussed when we're talking about the HVAC systems. Let's get the discussion about, that's something that Chris Medina can talk to us about, and Tammy. I think the more important thing we need to decide is if we're going to try to get school open with the HVAC systems as they are now or not. So let's concentrate on that right now.
All right, then just one last question. The RVED document stated that the PM could be finished, and I don't have it printed out, but before school opens. Is that still accurate?
It depends on the commitment level of the board tonight. If you commit to going ahead and making sure all the PM is done, it's possible, but it is not guaranteed. Because you don't know what parts you will need after you dive into the PM and how long it will take to order them. And then when you can get the people to fix it, because we are at a stage where all 182 districts are at different places with their ventilation systems, and they're all calling the exact same people and ordering the exact same parts.
All right, thank you.
So, Matt, who had their hand up?
Rich, you had Robin Cepeda, member of the public, and now you also have Dwight, who's a board member.
Okay, let's go to Dwight and then Robin.
I guess. Thanks, Rich. I guess my question is, this recommendation, has the buildings actually been tested? Do we know what the rates are currently, or do we just need to have someone come in during the the maintenance to test it at that point? Like, how do we know we're out of compliance?
That's a great question, Dwight. No, they have not been tested. And
so we could be in compliance.
Yes, we are not saying that anything is not good. What we're saying is we don't know. Until we do the preventative maintenance and do what gets the operating standards per the manufacturer, then doing the test, you won't know.
Well, and also, Bill, several of the items that Jordan brought up, I mean, need something done. Add portable air cleaners to classrooms. We would have to purchase them. We haven't done that yet. Dedicated HVAC system for an isolation room. So there's several things that would have to be done before we open to comply with the recommendations of the nurse, correct?
So here's the nuance of the recommendations that come from the state. There's a whole host of things that are recommendations, but in directly talking with the state, both the Vermont Department of Health and the Secretary of Ed, they emphasize that they are recommendations and they are not required. So it is up to each individual community to decide what of the recommendations and to what degree do they want to do before they feel comfortable in operating their school in whatever instructional disposition they decide. Only the local community knows what is able to be decided for the local community. There will be no decision from the state. The decision from the state are the required things. The recommended are, these are the best things you could possibly do. And then what our COVID coordinator is asking is to make sure that the HVAC systems at a minimum are up and running before you have in-person learning.
Okay, I think
To the manufacturer specifications.
Okay, so again, let's keep the discussion on, we have to make a decision whether or not we want to try to open the schools before everything is done. So I think, Dwight, are you all set? Okay, Robin, you had your hand up, I guess.
Yeah, hearing this is really concerning as a parent. This tells me that you guys have not prepared any sort of measures to protect kids if you do open schools. You haven't done anything yet. You still need to order parts and fix the HVAC system and get it tested and all that. That's really concerning, especially in our community. We live in a ski resort town. We're Dover, Vermont. We have people who here locally, a lot of new enrollees from out of state that are still going back and forth to New York State. So what you're telling me is you're debating on whether or not you want to have the safest measures in place for kids and adults who are coming from out of state and possibly contaminating the rest of our community. That's a little worrisome to me. What's the timeline for getting this fixed, and why are we even discussing opening the school if this hasn't been done yet and we've had all summer for it?
Just if I could respond, Rich.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Ms. Cepeda, for your comments. I would say that we got on this right when we got the guidance. So the moment we got the guidance, which was at the end of June, our director of operations has been doing this work in all of the buildings. And there was no delay. It just takes time to get vendors in. It takes time to get all these things in place. It is 33 pages of guidance. So I don't think the board has been derelict. I am very confident that the superintendent's office and the principals and the administration have not been derelict. This is just simply following through on the recommendations of the state, and then ultimately a decision has to be made on to which recommendations are going to be followed completely, followed to the care and concern and comfort level of the community, and then decisions simply have to be made.
It just bothers me that we're 3 weeks away from school and we're having a conversation right now about an HVAC system that is part of a very important part of keeping our kids safe. And we're debating on whether or not we're going to open school with a very unusable HVAC system. And honestly, a typical HVAC that you could find in a home or school does not sanitize and will not protect against coronavirus. The virus is too small to be contained by a regular filter. So I have some legitimate concerns with a son that is high risk because of asthma. I want to know that my son is going to be safe walking into that school right now. Like, what's happening here?
Well, and I believe, Bill, you can answer that. I mean, every parent will have the ability to decide whether their child wants to go, whether the school is open or not, correct?
That is correct.
So
It's correct.
Hang on, you can decide that, you know, you're not comfortable with it, and you don't, even if school is open, you don't have to have your child go. So you can have them do, because I believe there was 3 options that were sent out to all the parents. So, you know, one of those options may be better for you. There could be different options for different parents. Matt, I'll get to you in 1 sec.
Unfortunately for us, I didn't see a good option with regards to the distance learning, and I'm not a very good teacher, flat out. My kids struggled a lot from being at home. I want to send him because I don't want him to fall behind. There's no reason that COVID should be the reason he falls behind. And the main thing that I had a problem with was that our virtual learning option only included 1 day a week of support from our teacher. And it's not even like we're getting a full day. We have to share that between every other student who's homeschooled. That's a major issue for myself and my son, which is why we made the decision to send him. However, it sounds like you haven't made the effort to even start making sure these schools are safe for these kids. And it's really frustrating to come on this meeting and just be kind of upset, first of all, about the fact that out-of-state kids are enrolling and still traveling back and forth, but then to discover that the HVAC hasn't been fixed. We've been out of school since before school ended. The bare minimum that could have been done would have been, you know, making sure that the system's up to date and, you know, up to manufacturer code. That could have been done without having to discuss all these safety measures that are now being recommended. So why hasn't that been done?
Okay, because I think that's been answered. Bill said that we weren't aware of it and that we just got guidance at the end of June, and they started working on it the 1st of July. And there's a lot of other schools that need it, and a lot of other places. There's a lot of trouble getting stuff from different manufacturers, equipment, supplies. So I think all that's been answered, Robin. Let me move on. Matt, you had something?
Yeah, Rich, I just want to let you know, I'm trying to keep track of the hands and the questions. So you have a chat question, which I'm happy to read. That person also has her hand up. That's Allison Young, who's a parent, member of the public.
Okay, yeah, I skipped, I kind of jumped over her. And I also had Matt, Tom, and Mike that wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, and Mark and Laura, board members, also have their hands raised.
Mark and Laura. Okay, so why don't we start with Allison? I don't see her for some reason. She was. Oh, there's.
Hi, Rich.
Hey.
Hi. So the question that I had put in the chat first was that what is the time frame for being tested? I don't think that was really answered. Is that something that can reasonably be done before the start of school? And the other comment I wanted to make, which I just want to double check on it, what I found to be very helpful for me when I was sort of analyzing what I was going to do with my kids and kind of what the school was doing, what the school board was doing. One of the things that was important for me to just know was that the governor's orders that the school would be opened. You know, that it wasn't any individual school doing something or not doing something or whatever. You were just kind of waiting to find out what was going on. And then the governor said you were going to be open and you have to go from there. So I thought, you know, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of disappointment going on, you know, surrounding these decisions. But I thought it was helpful for me to know that this wasn't in the hands of the local board, that this was something that came down from above, and you guys can only work within your parameters. You don't have that sort of elite control.
Okay, thank you, Allison. I got Matt. Tom Oakley, did you want to make a comment?
It's actually a question, Rich. I Bill could help answer it. Just out of curiosity, kind of working through this. Traditionally, in the first months of school, late August, September, you know, kind of probably during the weeks that if we were fixed, do we traditionally even use the HVAC system? Do we rely more on fresh air with windows being open? Just curious, kind of what you know we tend to do every year in those months.
Why don't we let Matt and Tammy answer that, if that's okay? I think he's pointing at you, Tammy.
So our HVAC system has two modes. One is unoccupied mode and one is occupied mode. And traditionally when people are present in the building, it's running in occupied mode. And we do, obviously, we don't have air conditioning in our building. So yes, the windows are open and sometimes the doors are opened as well. And fans are going.
Tommy, we definitely rely on fresh air until the furnaces started and the windows are closed up for the heating season, for sure.
So that's scientifically, we would have fresh air circulating through the buildings regardless of whether or not the HVAC systems were running. And it sounds like that would certainly buy us some time to have them tested and fixed. Just an observation and an opinion.
Thank you, Tom. Mike, where's Mike? Did Mike want to make a comment? Mike Jones?
I didn't see Mike, but I saw
no, not me, Mike Jones, but thanks anyways.
Okay. I had Handy, and then Mark, and then Laura.
Hi. So I just wanted to clarify, the HVAC is not broken. So if this were like before COVID, regular times, the school was set to open and it meets the standards, it just doesn't meet the new optional standards. Is that correct? Or is the system broken?
Go ahead, Bill.
I'm again pointing back to Laura's importance of the precise language that we use. I'm not going to use fixed or broken. I'm going to say that we are not sure until we do the preventative maintenance that we can ensure that school ventilation system properly cleaned and meets all the operating standards per the manufacturer, and ensure that ventilation systems operate properly and increase the circulation of the outdoor air. Until we actually do that, we won't know. So I'm not trying to be evasive. I'm just trying to use the language directly from the.
Okay. Is there a timeline? Is there a timeline set up for the preventative maintenance and for all these decisions? Is there like a ballpark, like it's a week, it's a month?
Yes, there's a one-page document that the board has not dove into yet that kind of lays all of that out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have Mark and Laura. Mark.
All right. That document that Bill just referenced is available on the link that's in the chat if you want to look at that. So I understand that the cost for testing is $7,000 to $10,000, but is there anything stopping us from doing that first? to see even where we are. Since the systems, I'm going to use a word, aren't broken, we just don't know whether they meet the new COVID standards. Maybe we should spend that money to get it tested before we spend a lot more than that, 10 times as much, to do the PM. Second comment is in regard to fans, and I don't remember where I read this. I think it was in the latest edition of that came out August 11th from thank you, Bill. The guidelines that for fans, what you want to have is 2 fans, one blowing in, one blowing out, so you have that positive pressure. And as long as we're doing that, that meets the standards set forth in that document.
So just to clarify, there is no standard. It simply says a recommendation to follow would be to have natural ventilation through windows to be effective. And to help address that, schools can consider using windows, fans or box fans positioned in open windows to blow fresh air into the classroom via one window and indoor air out of the classroom. So there isn't a standard. It is just another one of the recommendations.
I stand corrected.
It's okay. And then the testing, so the recommendation of Efficiency Vermont and the vendors we are working with is that you need to do the preventative maintenance before you should do the testing. If the board wants to do the testing prior to the preventative maintenance, I would ask Mr. Medina for more detail on that. I'm just, what has been laid out by the people we have hired is that you should do the preventative maintenance, then you should do the testing.
Okay, Mark, are you all set? Okay, Laura, you had the floor next.
Thanks. I have two questions. I think the first one is for Bill. And sorry, I'm just going to ask this in an even different way. So is it possible that the systems are functioning, that we might find after testing that they are functional up to standard? Or do we know that it's not possible, that there definitely will need to be improvements?
We definitely know that there is some work to be done at Dover. We have an estimate that has been done from one vendor. Okay. It would be a decision about whether that is preventative maintenance or an upgrade. And we know from history that there's some ERV work that is necessary at Wardsboro. But having said all that, and going back to Mark's point, and going back to Dwight's point, until you test, you won't know if you are matching the standard for ventilation rates of 10 CFM per person plus 0.12 CFM per square foot. So until you test that, you won't know.
Okay, thank you. And I'm so sorry that you all are having to become experts in HVAC systems, but that is where we are. And so thank you for your work on that. My next question, I don't know if it's for you, Bill, or if it's for Tammy and Matt, but I'm interested in a snapshot of where we're at in terms of indication from families about in-person, remote, and homeschooling. So if we have any sense yet of numbers, or if that's still pretty fuzzy.
Tammy, do you want to go first? Okay. Yes, Laura, we have pretty good numbers. I think at this point, at the moment, we have 2 children from families who have selected homeschooling, which means they unenroll and enroll in the Vermont homeschool program. We have 35 children whose families have selected school-supported home study. That's the at-home model that Robin referred to. And the balance of about 70 ish, 72 maybe, students from families who have selected the 4x1 in-person model that we're offering, that we can offer with our current staffing to support both modalities.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So,
Rich, I apologize. I just want to let you know Mr. Medina has joined.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, and
But
Mr. Antone is going to be leaving in 7 minutes. But if I could just say this, I very much appreciate the discussion, and I very much look forward to the board discussing the recommendation from the COVID coordinator in the context of all of this. I've had one-on-one meetings with Matt and Tammy. I feel very comfortable that Matt and Tammy can convey thoughts from the administration. And Mr. Medina, I feel 100% comfortable that he can share any information about the plan, why the plan, answer the questions about when the testing, all of that nature. So I apologize that I'm going to another meeting just like this, but in preparation for me leaving, I have met with the administration and our director of operations, and Lori Garland is on tonight as well and will stay the entire time in order to answer any financial questions as well. So
Richard.
So yeah,
Richard.
Yeah, hang on one sec. Bill, so is school going to open September 8th or not?
School is going to open for instruction on September 8th. Whether it opens in person, whether it opens in a hybrid, that will be a decision that will be influenced by the board making a motion tonight.
Okay, so we need guidance on what we're going to do. So, and again, I think I go back to that we need to decide as a board, or we need to just give Bill the authority to decide, is school going to open in person on September 8th or not? So go ahead, Laura.
I think that was Mark's point about talking about the policy. So this is a gigantic decision for a community. It's a gigantic decision for individual families. And if given the authority by the board, I will make that decision. I would appreciate if the board would take a stand or make a position. But if that is not possible, I am comfortable in my role of going ahead and making a decision.
Go ahead, Laura.
Well, okay. So I'm still interested in Tammy's answer, but prior to that, before you leave, so I of course want to know what your recommendation is, and so I'm guessing that your recommendation is to do the testing and see where we're at. I'm not going to guess actually. Are you willing to give us a recommendation, or at this point before you leave?
I have no problem doing that if that's what the board would like me to do.
I am interested in what your recommendation is, Bill.
Give me thumbs up, board. You guys want Bill's recommendation?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead, Bill.
I would follow the COVID coordinator's recommendation. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't do that. And I understand the hardship that it places on families. I understand the disruption. I understand it's 3 weeks hence, but I would have a very difficult time as the superintendent of this supervisory union to not follow the person who is our COVID coordinator and has, all they do is think about this. So if the board defers the decision to me, that would be my recommendation.
Okay. And Bill, if we have questions regarding how that recommendation. Okay. So Bill and Matt and Tammy, you've spoken with them about that recommendation, and Lori, who are here, and Chris Medina. So you feel like this conversation will be okay without you here?
I think that Matt and Tammy can absolutely feel comfortable talking as a group of 3 administrators about our conversations. I think that Lori can speak to the financials, and I think that Chris Medina can speak to the operations. But in terms of a final decision, if the board defers that to me, I think I've made clear that I will be following the COVID coordinator's recommendation.
Okay.
Laura, can I ask one question on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the board can also, or we could also make a decision to let people know what our COVID coordinators' recommendations are. But we could also open the school, and as long as people are aware of these recommendations and where we stand, they can make the decision whether their child attends the building or not.
That is correct in the context of the students, but that does not factor in the context of the employees.
But the employees are in the building anyways.
Depends on what instructional disposition is decided of how we're going to operate school starting on September 8th. It's a very challenging and nuanced challenge. I absolutely understand, and I'm more than willing to go ahead and make the call. I just want to be totally transparent about every information piece that I get.
Okay. Richard, can I? Yeah.
Go ahead, Laura.
Are you done?
Yeah, I asked my question.
Okay. Bill, thank you. I realize that these are excruciatingly hard decisions and there's not enough time or support to make them. So thank you to you and your team for all of the work that you're doing to help us make the best decisions possible. This is really hard. So thank you.
I appreciate that. I apologize that I have to leave. I will just say that we will make the best decision we can. We understand the amount of ripple effects it makes on individual families and a community. But we will make the best decision that we possibly can under the current circumstances.
Okay. And then Rich, if I can just get the answer from Tammy, I'm all set. I'll mute myself.
So when the survey went out, parents were not made aware because we weren't aware of the situation with the HVAC. So based on survey information that came in last week, we had 3 children from that one family who chose homeschool. We had about 7 students who are opting for the teacher-supported at-home learning. And then we have about 33 students that are wishing to do our proposed 4 days of instruction and 1 day of remote.
Go ahead, Matt.
Rich, I just want to let you know you have a couple of questions from community members in the chat.
I see them.
And a few hands up as well.
Yeah, so let's do this, guys. I think we're losing Bill. I think we lost Bill, right? Yeah. We've got Chris on the phone. Allison Robin asked some questions I think are more in line with that Chris can answer. So what do you folks want to do? We can move forward and talk more about the school opening. We can find out more about the ventilation system from Chris. What does the board want to do? Go ahead, Dwight.
Yeah, I'd like to find out more information. So basically, I certainly would agree with Bill to follow the guidelines of the COVID coordinator, but I think I have a question for them, and that is, so does, you're getting back to what Tammy was saying before about, whether or not we're occupied or unoccupied, and for the windows being open early in the season. My question is how much do we rely on that HVAC system, and is it actually filtering air in the early part of the year if it's not even running? Obviously, it's of extreme importance to be running when the window's shut and we put the heat on. But how much are we relying on that, if at all, early in the season, where that needs to be fully operational if it's not used for air conditioning and it's really only used to heat the building? So are we using that system to filter the air early in the season?
Well, you also got to remember, though, like the bathrooms don't have windows, so there is no ventilation in the bathrooms other than.
But they have fans, I guess. Oh, maybe not. I don't know.
And then you've got Jim in the Dover building. You have a resource room that's in the center of the building. And always. So there's a lot of. I mean, I think that would be a good thing for Chris Medina to talk about.
Yeah, so that's my question. How much we rely on it?
Right. Okay. So Mark, go ahead.
So 2 comments. One, I do believe that the board we should make a decision in regard to the HVAC and opening. I also think that we should move forward on policy 825, which we haven't discussed yet. Second comment is that we need to remember that masks are required by everybody in school, adults and children, and that every study that has been done for decades shows that they are extremely effective. So it's not that we've got people standing around, sorry, bugs are flying in front of me, standing around without social distancing, without masks on. There will be significant protections built in just based on those aspects. And if we've got windows open, so I'd like to hear from Chris the details of the timeline and the recommendations from the actual engineers who've taken a look at the buildings.
Hey, Matt, who else had hands up?
I have a hand up from Allison Young, member of the public, and then Robin has a question in the chat, and Medina just announced that he's ready for questions.
Okay, so Robin, I'm gonna hold your question because let Chris do his thing, and then I think your question is more appropriate to him. And Allison Young, do you want to hear from him first, and I'll let you go right after Robin? Or is your question more for the board and less about the HVAC system, which I see yours right over your head?
Oh, yeah, we just had to put it. My question is, because I haven't heard you touch on this yet, is what is the timeline for testing? I've heard you say, products are hard to come by, whatever, but and this is for Chris, like what is the testing process? How long does that take? Do you have to wait for a contractor for 3 months, or is that something you guys can do this week?
Okay, so let's let Matt, I think that covers everybody, right? So why don't we go ahead and then Matt, Chris, you can do yours, and then we'll let Robin and Allison have the first questions of Chris. So Chris, I don't know where you are now.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to touch base on that document regarding the HVAC stuff. So everything we've received from the AOE, from Efficiency Vermont, Department of Health, as along with the ASHRAE guidance, it's all guidance. There's no actual standard of what our buildings need. So in response to the recommendation from our COVID coordinator, I put this list together. A lot of the information is going off of that HVAC grant, which we are working on with Efficiency Vermont now. So there's three main things that have been looked at in regards or in response to reopening schools for COVID. The first one is ventilation. So that's how much fresh air is brought into the buildings. The second is air exchange. So that's how many times an hour the air is being filtered and exhausted. And the third is filtration, just the level of particulate capturing that we're doing through the filters in our systems. So obviously each one of these has its own nuances and their own, again, guidelines for us to follow or recommendations. So right now it's kind of a three-step approach, which I was proposing. I'll just touch briefly too. So a lot of our classrooms or rooms in our buildings have windows for fresh air. So in the beginning of the year, that's not so much a problem, but a lot of the windows is also dependent on the humidity of the outside air, if there's wind outside, how much pressure is actually being brought in from that. But we do have classrooms or spaces inside of our buildings that don't have fresh air ventilations. We also have bathrooms that all rely on exhaust fans. And there's just a lot of questions as to what the actual air change is in a lot of our buildings. There's no baseline numbers on any of that for the facilities. So that's where the air testing part of this comes into place. The air testing, from when I was speaking with our engineer, is about a week out to schedule. And then it involves about 1 day in each of the buildings, and then about a half a day off-site to do calculations based on the occupancy of each room, the square footage of the room, just to come up with those ventilation standards that we should be seeing for fresh air. And then from that, we'll be able to determine what the next steps are, if we are getting enough air exchange, if we are seeing enough ventilation for the occupancy. My suggestion was that since we know we do have issues in some of these spaces and deficiencies to work on, that we're likely to fail air testing unless we get some of these fixed. For example, we have quite a few exhaust fans in the buildings that we know are in need of replacing because they don't work anymore. We have dampeners and fans on our unit ventilators that we know are not functioning. We have some ERV units that are air handling units that are not bringing in air from the outside right now. So until we get these addressed, I don't think it's worth putting the money into the air testing right away. But again, that is a decision. I want to be transparent with where we stand. So everything here is just my recommendation. So it can be an extended timeline depending on what they find from that air testing of what needs to be fixed. Same thing with our PM servicing. You know, they have a good idea of roughly what needs to be done, but until our contractors really dig into the systems, there could be additional parts that need to be ordered, which we could see, you know, 4 to 8 weeks out, depending on what those parts are. I hope that answered most of the questions, but again, I'm happy to answer anything else at this point.
Okay, so Robin, I was going to give you the first shot at Mr. Medina.
Yeah, so given what I just heard, we've got, you know, roughly like 2 weeks for, you know, testing and results and stuff. We've got a timeline now of like 4 to 8 weeks for parts and stuff. But what I'm hearing is right off the bat, we have already failed with the HVAC system. So I'm just concerned as to why we're even having a discussion about opening schools for in-person learning. This should be like a closed thing already. And why are we putting our kids at risk like this, and our teachers for that matter? My other thing was more of a comment in the chat room, was more along the lines of, would negative pressure not be more effective to pull air out of an unoccupied hallway and have fans facing outward in classrooms to push contaminated air out versus positive pressure, which would just drive everything in and keep it in?
Yeah, they both work hand in hand. I mean, we can have negative pressure that brings air out, but part of the guidelines is also we need a certain amount of ventilation or air being brought into the spaces, determined by the occupancy and the square footage of each space in the building. Negative pressure, they're really recommending we focus that on our isolation rooms. Those are rooms that would have a primary function of if there is an individual student staff that is experiencing COVID-like symptoms, they would be placed in that room where you have direct exhaust to the outside, not recirculating through the building, and most of that air is being exhausted, little air actually coming into that space. So drive any of those aerosol particles right outside. But yes, we do know about a bunch of deficiencies right now from our engineering report and our mechanical contractors in the buildings. And apparently these have been brought up before in the capital study. So none of them are really new issues, but just this COVID and the HVAC grant has really accelerated our need to look further at them.
Okay. But that still goes back to what I said earlier. It seems like right off the bat, before we've even started this process, we've already failed. So why are we even discussing opening the school when the HVAC system isn't going to be working properly for what we need it for? And yeah, we're just sending our kids and our teachers to the slaughterhouse, basically.
Okay, thank you, Robin. Allison Sullivan, I said you were second, I believe.
Hi, Rich. I'm here. I just had a question. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, go ahead.
I was just wondering, just the design of the windows at the Dover School. Would be for Chris, I guess. You pull them out from the bottom. It's not a full size window. So are they designed appropriate to even have a fan pull air in and another fan send it out? Does that make sense?
Yes, that certainly makes sense. And honestly, I might defer this one to Matt, who has a better idea of the windows. Off the top of my head, I could not think of that. So Matt should be able to address that one.
All right, thanks.
Do you want me to address that now, Rich?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think that it would be a challenge for us with the way the windows are to fit a box fan in. I'd have to go up and look at it, but I think I'm feeling the same thing Allison is noting, is that they either, some of them open up from the bottom, and it's like a louver, and then some of them fold up from the top, fold into the building, and none of them fold flat, and they're roughly 12 by 24 inches, horizontal rectangle. So I don't know what we would get for fans in there. We'd have to, if we were going to do fans, we'd have to look for something that would fit there. And Mark has his hand up.
Yeah, and then Samantha too, I see. So Mark and then Samantha.
Let Samantha go first.
Samantha, you were.
Yeah, thanks. So my question is really about the timeline. Just thinking, Chris, you're indicating that there are some things that we already know would need to be fixed prior to testing. So do you have a sense of how long, or the possibility to get some of those things done? Like what would be the timeline for those air vents and things to get completed prior to even getting on the list for the testing?
Sure. So working with one of our HVAC contractors, they're booking PM servicing at least 1 week out, and then that'll get them here to be able to go through all the units, do belts, filters, the easy things. If they find more items that need to be replaced or repaired, that might be where we're looking at a 4 to 8 week lead time for parts, depending on what that part may be. Then we also have some of the upgrade stuff which needs to be done, like an ERV replacement, for example. We know right off the bat that that's a 9 week lead time just to order that ERV. So again, the sooner we want to make a decision, I think the better off will be to try to get it done. But based on the time frame for booking the PM servicing, any additional time frame for parts, looking at the air testing and upgrades, I mean, I don't think I see this being done any sooner than mid-November.
Samantha, you all set? Mark?
I have a question for Matt and Tammy. Are the teachers prepared to start the year with remote instruction? And then I've got a couple more questions, but I'll let you guys go ahead and answer that.
Tim, you want first on this one? You want me to go? All right. The teachers have been preparing to start in either remote or in person since June. Essentially, they ended the year last year with starting to plan for how they could be flexible to start this year, knowing that there's nothing more frustrating, Robin, than spending the last 60 days planning everything and then have this kind of fall out of the sky at us. I think people are feeling like they are nervous about coming back, but they're feeling, when we left in June, I think we were feeling good about the hybrid model, so that in case we did have to go remote, we were prepared to do that. And then teachers have put a lot of time in to be prepared to make that switch to remote. I don't think there's any teachers that don't want to go back and see their kids and get started and have normal. That's what we all want. We all would prefer that. All the teachers will do what they have to do. I feel strongly that they'll do that. And this is just this is a blow to us, no pun intended, this HVAC stuff. But the quick answer is yes. I think that we could hit the ground running on September 8th with a good, solid remote program, a lot better than what we ended with in the spring, because we learned so much about how to do it. And I think we'll continue to learn and we'll continue to get better at it. It still won't be ideal for many families, but we'll do the absolute best that we can.
Matt, was my understanding that one of the requirements for the Vermont Department of Ed was that we had to have a plan in place to do remote learning because the state may say all schools are closed tomorrow, or you could go back for 3 weeks and we could have had everything running and up to snuff and fine, and they could, for whatever reason, decide to close all schools anyway. So I thought that was part of what we've been planning all summer anyways.
Yep, you are correct. That is what we ended the school year with, the understanding that we would have to be able to flip the switch at a moment's notice and be prepared for remote learning 100%. And you got 2 hands, 3 hands up.
Okay, well, Mark, did you have any other questions?
I'd like to hear from Tammy also. I wasn't so much concerned that we weren't preparing for remote, just wanted to know whether the preparations were at the stage where we could start remote.
So we also ended last year knowing that we would be going into this year with our theme as flexibility, in thinking that there might be times we might start in person, and then there might be times where we would need to switch into the remote learning mode. So I would say it's a frame of mind probably for our teachers at this point. There's a lot of uncertainty, and I think it would be helpful for them to know either way what they are doing. They're extremely flexible. However, they do want to know, what do I need to be preparing for at this time? Remember, they've been off this summer too. So we left the year, yes, with the statement, we need to be flexible about starting the year, but we do have some time at the beginning of the year to make a solid plan. And if we do decide to go to remote, then, we'll have some time before school starts to prepare for that.
All right, thank you. Rich, I want to start making some motions, but I don't know. I also have some financial questions for Lori that I'd like answered before I start making motions. Do you mind if I ask her a couple of questions?
Why don't you hold on, because we had a couple other hands up, and as soon as we get those people get to weigh in, then we'll move forward with that, if that's okay with you.
Yep, that works.
Okay, Matt, who else did you have?
You got Kate, board member Kate. You got Robin and Tom, both community members.
Robin and Tom. Hi, Lori. I see you now. Go ahead, Kate.
So it sounds like Jorda's, the COVID coordinator's recommendation is for all across our supervisory union. Is that correct? Did I interpret that correctly?
That's my understanding, yes.
Not just over in Wardsboro, but,
No, I
okay.
don't think.
So are other supervisory unions also?
I think that's some of the problem. I think that's some of the problem Chris is into, is that every school is now saying, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And I think that's part of the reason why some of this stuff is going to take a while. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah, that's correct. As part of that grant program came out and more schools are doing their further testing or analysis with engineers and their contractors, a lot of schools are going to be affected by this. And again, it's up to them to make their individual choices, but I know our HVAC contractors are definitely swamped with the amount of work that they can try to get done before December 31st, which is the end of that period that we can get this work done to be eligible for that grant.
Matt, I can't see where I wrote it. After Kate, who do you have?
You got Tommy and Robin from the public.
Okay, Tommy, go ahead.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, I just want to make a comment on the record. Obviously, tremendously difficult situation, but it's not ideal. The children haven't been in school since the end of the winter, and there's other things at play here, isolationism, and they're not doing well. And as good a job as our teachers did, it's not school. It's 45 minutes a day of busy work. And, to hear that this is going to be put off till November, I understand the ramifications. I understand our teachers need to be protected. And I understand it's nobody really wants to own this. But that being said, I just want to make sure that that's being weighed too. You know, that the children are going to be wearing masks, and you know, it's, to me now it sounds like we're not going to even have the possibility of in-service school till late November, and it's just certainly not ideal for the kids.
Thank you, Tom. Robin, you can leave him on your lap.
He's very large. So, you know, hearing that this HVAC isn't probably going to be, you know, safe until November, that I feel like that definitely encourages the need for remote learning. I share, you know, the last gentleman's concerns about isolationism and everything, but at the same time, I would rather my child be healthy and know that you guys have taken these steps, you know, made all these repairs, gone through and taken the recommendations versus just sending them in and hoping things work. Because I definitely feel him on, you know, the kids needing that social contact, but I think that their safety is more important than getting them into school right away. Plain and simple.
Okay, thank you. Elena, go ahead.
Echo, since we're kind of doing a little bit of a round robin here, that obviously this is very difficult, and appreciate all the hard work and the consideration, balancing the need for especially the younger kids to be able to be in person versus ventilation. But based on Christopher's timeline and then the considerations of not needing the HVAC in the middle, I wonder, in the beginning of the year, I wonder if there's not, and it sounded like from Bill's comments that, you know, if the board took action today and we tried to fast track getting the HVAC up and running, it doesn't sound like there's no timeline for which in person starting in September is completely off the table. But I kind of hear the tone of this conversation going that way, but I just wanted to chime in that it sounds to me like, based on the weather in the beginning of the year, and if the board took a strong decision to say, like, let's do everything we can to get the HVAC up and running by, you know, November, up to speed, and, you know, maybe some of the tests come back our way, but maybe we start and then we close later. But I just wanted to kind of echo that timeline. Actually, when Chris first said it out, I thought that sounded positive, but I feel like now it sounds like undoable.
And that was my question too when I asked, could we do something where we have maybe less kids in the building, or do a more hybrid system so that some kids can go at some days, and you know, are there other options besides? I was hoping it wasn't an all or nothing option. So I got a lot of people moving around, and I'm not okay. So I got Allison and Heidi, and then I'm going to give the floor back to Mark. Matt, am I missing anybody else? Allison?
Yeah, you have Jennifer Finaldi as well.
Allison. Okay.
And
Allison,
Laura.
And you have Laura. Sorry, Laura. Yeah.
Okay, Allison, Heidi. Who?
Jennifer Finaldi. She's an employee at Warrants.
Yeah. Allison, Heidi, Jennifer, and Laura. I'm sorry, the lady who just, Elaine, are you a staff member or public, or?
I'm public.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a new parent who does not travel out of state. I don't know where that's coming from, but I promise you we're not traveling anywhere.
Okay. So Allison.
Hi, yeah, my question is for Chris. With regard to the repairs that you want to make and the testing and all the stuff that you want to have going on, would kids and the school being occupied impact that in any way? Or would you be able to do what you need to do whether they're there or not?
Yeah, a lot of the repairs, the servicing, and the testing would be disruptive to students being in the building. And then also, just to piggyback too on something I forgot to mention during the other discussion, was the way some of our systems set up, or most of the systems are set up currently, is that during the summer months or fall when our heat is not running, the systems are not bringing in fresh air. A lot of them are set up that the fans to bring in fresh air only run when it has a heat call. So we only rely on windows for a lot of the beginning of the school year to bring in that fresh air ventilation. Good and bad. The bad thing is that it doesn't have any sort of filtration or any sort of demand control on it. Just so for what that's worth, I just wanted to make sure that that was also clear.
Okay, Allison went dark on us, so I think the next one I had was Heidi.
Hello, I'm a teacher at Wardsboro, and I'm just curious if there are any other teachers at Dover who are planning to take learning outside. I know I am, and I know that the parent response when I asked for sizing on gear earlier in the summer to get kids gear was really, really positive from parents, and I just was curious, Matt, if there are teachers at Dover who are planning to take learning outside.
We do have a couple of teachers, Heidi, who are interested in doing that. None that have significant experience in it, so it'll be a bit of a new venture for them, but we do have a couple who have been working on that over the summer.
Okay, so I had Jennifer next. Oh, I think you're muted.
Hi, thanks. I just wanted to kind of just clarify that in Wardsboro, that we don't obviously know what the air quality or that test is as of yet, because it hasn't been done, but that the evac or the situation that we've had with our heating system or whatever has been known for years. We have not personally, or I personally have not noticed anything or been sick from it. I have asthma, so I am one concerned with respiratory diseases, and I feel I would kind of be maybe more sicker than I am. So I just want to just ask maybe Chris, like the air quality hasn't changed in our schools from last year. The only thing that is changing is the recommendations from the state.
Correct. And these are guidelines that have been published for quite some time. But again, in light of COVID and reopening schools, they're just highlighted more now than they have been in the past. But yeah, nothing has changed as far as the way the building systems are operating. We're just trying to go off the recommendations of the state and our COVID coordinator's recommendation to address or look further at the performance of our systems.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer and Chris. And then I had Laura.
Thanks, Rich. I have two questions. One is for Chris, and that is, do you have a sense of what the improvement is between the optimal HVAC and open windows? So, you know, what is the difference between the open windows and the highest standard that we're trying to reach here on the HVAC?
I don't have a terribly great answer on that. From some of the research I've been doing online, there's a lot of variables that go into the windows. Again, if it's a windy day outside, the level of humidity in the air, those play factors into just leaving a window open. Whereas if we have optimal running HVAC systems, they actually have fans that are constantly pulling air into the building and also filtering it while it's pulling it into the building. So one will be the level of filtration, but the other one I think is variable with some other factors.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question, I'll just say, offer this comment. I am, I appreciate Elena's comments and Heidi's, some of these, kind of cautious steps, thinking about taking some cautious steps, and I'm trying to get my head around that. I think it would probably be my preference. We have to deal with the infrastructure that we have. And so my next question is for Tammy and Matt, and that is, given these recommendations that have come in, these late recommendations, do you have a sense of how that may impact our staffing? Or do you not yet have a sense? And can you speak about it?
Go ahead, Tammy.
Well, we do. Actually, we were asked to develop a survey to poll our staff and their feelings and their comfort levels based on knowing that the HVAC system might need some repairs in order to get it up to snuff. So we went ahead and did that, and we did get some numbers. Matt, do you have those handy?
Yeah, we asked teachers if they were uncomfortable or if they were comfortable with the idea that the HVAC system might need upgrades. Would they, how did that impact their comfort level with starting school? And we found about 57% said they were uncomfortable or very uncomfortable. About 42% said that they were comfortable or very comfortable starting in person. 73% said that they would maybe, or that they would yes, move instruction outside. And about 62% said a box fan was not satisfactory. And about 38% said the box fans would be fine. That at the time the teachers took this survey, they did not have access to the letter from the COVID coordinator. We have since forwarded that to them. We have not resurveyed them to see if that changed their opinion on any of those questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mark, you were next.
Yeah, I hope you guys will bear with me. I've got a bunch of questions for a bunch of different people. First, I'd like to welcome the new families. As I'm sure all the board members feel, we are happy to have you in our district, and we thank you for putting your trust in us. Next, Chris, are you saying that the recommendations from A-Share, however you pronounce it, were in place prior to COVID, and that these were not specifically for COVID?
Correct. Yeah, the ASHRAE guidelines have been around for a while now, particularly when you talk about renovating building systems or building new buildings, they would follow those guidelines.
All right, great. Thank you. For Matt and Tammy, have there been any requests from staff yet for leave for the following year, for this upcoming year?
We have not been made aware of any, or I have not at my school. We can't speak for Matt.
We also have not been made aware of any, but procedurally, that's not the first step. So teachers have a certain amount of time that they can notify the Human Resources Department at the central office. That could be a couple of weeks before we're made aware of that. So at this point, I also do not have any requests from the Dover staff.
Okay.
And Lori could maybe speak to this. I think the deadline was the 31st.
Unmute yourself, Lori.
I have not been made aware of any official requests. There's been lots of questions coming to our office about the different leave types that are available for staff, but nothing has been official yet.
All right. Lori, while you're there, we're looking, if we're talking about doing the PM and the testing, we're looking at basically $100,000. Where do we find that money?
So I can, if Rich, if you want, I can jump into talking about the COVID money in starting from the top, and that this is where this all fits in.
Mark, do you have any other questions?
I might based on the answers, or I may just have motions based on the answers.
Okay, there's a couple more comments. Let's hit those comments, and then let's let Lori talk about finances, if that's okay.
Rich, you have one hand up as well, Laura, on the board.
Yeah, well, Laura's going to wait a second. Mike Jones just made a comment, the more classes that can be outside, the better in our opinion. And Allison Young just said, can we hear from our principals? What do they want to do? So that goes back to the question, are we going to, I believe, are we going to open or not? Allison, where's Allison Young? So if there's nothing else, Laura, is your question related to
Sorry.
finance? Oh,
It's not actually, and I would like, before Mark starts making motions, I would like to ask it. And it has to do with staffing. And so may I, Rich?
yeah.
So Tammy and Matt, has there been any thought given to kind of teaming with staff? So some staff, so if we have parents and staff that are not comfortable in the building and parents and staff that are comfortable in the building, kind of making that work in those two scenarios. Is that possible? Have we thought, like, kind of worked through that at all? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yes. The answer for Dover staff is that we have not explored that. I totally understand what you're saying. There are other districts that are teaming families that want to get together and pod up and work together with staff members, maybe even in alternative locations like a Grange Hall or a town hall, someplace where it's just that group meeting. And, you know, for us to do that, we'd have to have access to the staff all summer and planning for that. And we have not in Dover. I don't think we've done it in Wardsboro either, but we have not had time or the ability to explore those types of creative solutions, I'm sorry to say.
The same goes for Wardsboro, Laura.
Okay. And I would presume that we have not looked at alternative sites, for instance, our resort or any of the large lodging or anything for suitability. Okay. Chris?
We have not.
Chris, you have not looked at any alternative sites, right? I shouldn't say right.
No, I have not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if we're good, so I guess I'm a little confused. So are we in the process, are we talking about, are we going to make decisions about whether or not we open a school, or are we going to make decisions about whether or not we do the ventilation system? I mean, I think the ventilation system is kind of a no-brainer, and it doesn't matter if we have the money or not. It's got to be done. We can't not do it. So I don't know if we need to really spend a lot of time on that other than just, you know, it's a lot of money. I'd love to be able to have 5 bids on it and have people competing for the work. But I think, you know, in this day and age, we're going to be just lucky to have somebody who's available. So I think we should just move that forward. You know, we'll figure out where it comes from later. I think we need to just go ahead. We have some reserves for buses. We don't need to buy a new bus this year. We have some reserves for the building, for roofs. You know, we don't need to do a roof this year. I don't know if it's much that we need to have a discussion. Is there anybody on the board that disagrees?
I think it's important to know where the money's coming from. Yes, we have to spend it, but I'd like to hear what Lori has to say before we actually move it forward.
Sure. Do you want me to go ahead then?
Sure. Is there anybody else on the board that thinks different?
I think that we do have to spend it in some way, shape, or form to have a really top-notch system at this point in the game. I think that's a no-brainer. But I think it makes sense to know where the money's coming from. But yeah, both items are important.
Okay, go ahead, Lori.
So as part of the relief funds, the COVID relief funds, CRF grant from the federal government. 6.5 million was given to Efficiency Vermont to look at these and complete this work. So there will be some amount of grant funds coming from through Efficiency Vermont to the two buildings. So it's by building. Chris has been in contact, and he could maybe speak a little bit more to the Efficiency Vermont piece of things. I think the last conversation we had, it was around $14,000 per building. So is what they're estimating based on how many HVAC systems throughout the whole state need to be, you know, done PM on, and then parts and that type of thing. So then there's also $29 million left in the out of a pot of 50 million that was allotted to the education fund. And this was, this is for LEAs, and it is for reimbursement for unbudgeted COVID activities. So this is obviously an unbudgeted COVID activity. So there will be some amount of reimbursement on this. I will tell you that $29 million will not go very far throughout the whole state. So, you know, we will probably see a percentage of that. So, you know, maybe a 50-50 match or something like that. It really will depend on how much money is requested. And it's not on a first come, first served basis. It will be, the AOE will look at all of the expenses on a monthly basis, actually, and make calculations, you know, prorate that for fiscal year 21. So we are gathering up as many COVID expenses as we can right now. There's also a third pot of money called the ESSER funds, which is the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds, which we do have already. And River Valley's allotment is somewhere around 40,000. The run out period on that particular grant goes through the end of June. So it's my recommendation that we know that money's there and it can be used, but that we sort of put it aside for things that would be all year long if you had to hire, for instance, an additional nursing position or something like that that would carry you through June. The CRF funds you have to have all the work done and everything submitted to the AOE by 12/31/20. So the money runs out at that point, whereas ESSER funds continue on to June 30th. So there is some funding out there. I can't tell you at this point what the percentage will be. We are at this point just gathering all of fiscal year 20's COVID expenses for reimbursement, which should be at this point reimbursed at 100% because the money hasn't run out yet. And then 21 will be where there will probably be some proration in the reimbursement.
Go ahead, Mark.
All right. I'm gonna move that we move forward with the PM and testing as recommended by Chris and the SU.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on a second. Peter, where's Peter? Peter.
I'm with you.
Did you get the motion Mark made?
I did.
Okay, and you got the Laura seconded the motion?
I did.
Okay.
I'm keeping my video off because it helps the bandwidth.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. The motion is, read it back to me, Peter.
Mr. Schauber moved to proceed with PM and testing as recommended by WCSU and Director of Operations, second by Laura Sevilla.
Okay, so We have a motion in a second. Mark, you made the motion. Do you have any discussion?
First, Peter, thank you for making me sound a whole lot smarter than I am. I have for Chris. You mentioned that both PM and testing were about a week out. How, and you also mentioned that whatever work has to be done if students were in the school would be disruptive. Can you give a little more detail on what you mean by disruptive?
Sure, yes. So a lot of the rooms that they have to go in and take apart the unit ventilators to replace dampers or actuators or fan motors, some of that work's going to be done in classrooms. Same thing with the testing goes, is they're going to have to go through each classroom with flow hoods and hook them to the ventilation systems to determine the airflow. So there are quite a few projects that need to be done in student spaces. With that said, there's work that doesn't need to be done in student spaces, so that kind of is going to happen on a case-by-case basis.
Are you good, Mark?
Are there any unused, for Matt and Tammy, are there any unused classrooms currently at either building?
Yeah, in Dover, we have, when we're in step 2, we will not be having music and art in the regular music and art rooms. They'll be traveling is the current plan. So we would have be able to use the gym for overflow space, the art room and the music room if need be.
And at Wardsboro, they're a little bit smaller than the classrooms, but we do have the library and we also have the resource room.
All right, thank you. That's all I have on this motion, Rich.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Laura.
Yep. So I want to make sure we're talking about, we are not talking about the opening or closing of school at this point. We are talking about the testing, right, at this point.
And PM. Right? And the PM, yes.
We're talking strictly about the ventilation system.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. A couple quick comments. Chris, you I think you said earlier on, the reason we haven't done the testing is because we know it's not going to pass. Was that not what I heard, or did I hear that wrong?
Correct, yeah. My recommendation, I suggested we do the PM servicing prior to the testing. Not that I know nothing's going to pass, but I know our systems have had a lack of service. So I think at a bare minimum, we need to make sure they're all functioning properly prior to doing the testing.
Okay, and then also Christopher, I'm sorry, Christopher. I'm seeing Christopher and I'm thinking Chris. When I looked through the paperwork with the recommendations that came for the 2 buildings, they talk about some stuff that needs to be replaced. They talk about some things that need to be changed out. Is any of that, by not doing any of that, would that affect the testing?
Yes, for example, some of the quotes for Dover indicated about 10 exhaust fans that were not functioning, along with multiple fans and unit ventilators that were not functioning. So that would certainly have an impact on the testing, specifically with the air changes and the ventilation.
So we would kind of just be throwing our money away to do a test now if there's things we know have to be done if we don't do them first.
Correct. Yeah, that was my thought behind what I put down for the PM and why I suggested we do air testing following that.
So could I make a suggestion that we vote this motion down and possibly make a motion that says that we give our facilities manager permission to have the maintenance done, correct anything that he knows has to be corrected before the testing, and then move forward and do the testing. So I'm going to see Dwight's hand up and I see Mark's hand up. Go ahead, Dwight.
Thanks, Rich. So for Chris, for the testing, when you do they do testing, do they close all the windows in order to test the air quality, or is that the windows left open when they test?
I don't have an answer for that. I know they're going to be testing for 3 things. One is for ventilation, one is for air exchanges, and the other one is for air quality, particularly for CO2 levels. And I don't know the specifics of how those tests are performed.
Okay, so I'm kind of curious. I know Rich wants to wait to test till we have the work done, and certainly we need to have that work done. But I'm still kind of curious to know what the air quality is with the windows open. I understand that some rooms don't have windows, and every room's kind of different. And so I guess my other question is, can the testing be done with the windows open, and is the testing done in all the rooms in the building?
Yeah, the testing will be performed in all rooms throughout the building. Air quality particularly is not anything that has been brought up in any of the AOE guidance in concern of CO2 levels, but particularly for ventilation, which is the fresh air being drawn in, that's one on the recommendations, as well as with the air exchanges per hour. And I know as we were sitting here, I did go through the AOE document one more time, and it did mention about the natural ventilation versus mechanical ventilation. So I'm just going to quote directly from that AOE Healthy Strong Start document. That natural ventilation through windows can be effective, but is dependent on factors that drive pressure differentials between outdoors and indoors, like wind pressure and stack or buoyancy effects. Therefore, airflow into the building, even with open windows, is not guaranteed. So again, like I said, there's a lot of variables and factors that go into just having open windows.
Okay, thank you.
Matt, hang on. I told Mark he could go next, and then I think Kate, I don't know if she had her hand up or not.
So in regards to your comment, Rich, Chris, the known maintenance that has to be done, is that included in that, was it 80 to 90,000, I believe, for the PM?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I don't know if a friendly amendment is necessary to my motion. My motion meant to authorize the WCSU to proceed with their plan, which was to do the PM first and then the testing. If you need me to adjust the motion, I will do so. Rich?
Yeah, Chris. Medina, does Mark's motion allow you to correct anything that may need to be corrected or add anything that may need to be added to pass the testing?
So to clarify, there was 3 different parts that were broken down. So one was the PM servicing, the second was the air testing, and the third was upgrades. So just for example, in one of the upgrades, we had a replacement or an additional ERV for Wardsboro to tie into their air handling units for 2 of their classrooms. So currently, the way that was set up is that right now it's just drawing air from an attic space, not directly from outside. So that ERV would correct that issue and draw air from the outside. I can't say that it's going to pass a ventilation test or not the way it is. All I could say is that it's not installed correctly at the moment. But that cost is included on some of the upgrade stuff. So that's why we need to figure out where we want to go with this.
Lori Garland, are you okay with Mark's motion would you allow Chris to spend money to do these upgrades or whatever he needs to do to pass the testing?
My motion did not include the upgrades.
Right.
I understand that, but
it includes what's in the document, which he has said is part of preventative maintenance. But I want the result personally. I want the results of the test back before we authorize another $150,000.
Chris, how much is the testing?
The testing should be in the ballpark of around 7,000 to 10,000.
So if we did a test and it didn't come back that it passed, then we would still have to do upgrades or do something to make it pass, and then we would have to test again.
That's correct.
Okay.
But the difference is in timing. We can get the PM, assuming parts are available, we can get the PM and the testing done. The upgrades, we're looking at a much longer time frame for, which was going to be a second or third motion I was going to make in regard to the upgrades. I'd like that to be a separate topic.
Okay. Kate, did you have anything?
No.
Okay. Rick Thorpe.
No.
Okay, thank you, Rick. We haven't heard it all from you. Any comments? Is Rick there? Rick, you have any comments on the motion? Are you all set to vote? Oh, you gotta unmute yourself.
I'm all set on the motion.
Okay. There's a couple comments from Tom, but I think it's more not on this topic, so we'll hit those comments in a minute. One question Tom did have is, can the work be done after 3:30? But I don't think it makes a difference with the motion. The motion is to expend money, not when the work is done. If you guys are ready to vote, Matt, are we all set? Is there anything else I'm missing? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, which is to do the periodic maintenance and the testing of the systems at the two buildings, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, so it sounds like a unanimous decision. So that moves that forward. So we've got the ventilation system covered. Chris, the one question was asked is, and if you could look into it for us, can the work be done after 3:30?
I would need to check with our contractors. After 3:30 would likely to be an increase in cost to do the work. And then just making sure that they're going to be able to secure the building after hours.
Okay, thank you.
I'd suggest that if we are in person, that Wednesdays, which is a remote day, is a good day to do at least some of the work.
Okay, so I think Chris, does anybody else have any other questions for Chris?
I have a question regarding the upgrades.
Okay. Do we want to talk about the upgrades now?
That's up to you guys.
Board, do you want to talk about the upgrades?
I don't think, do we need to talk to them at this point? I mean, that's kind of the next stage. Because we're not even sure what they're going to be.
Well, there's recommendations on the upgrades. There's also some recommendations from our COVID person. You know, some of the things is like a standalone HEPA filter, creating negative pressure in the isolation room. Those are all items we don't have to do, but if we want to do, and I think that, you know, if that's something we do want to do, we should ask, you know, it would be, the time would be now to ask that that be done.
Yeah, okay.
It's up to the board. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see us kind of greenlighting as much as we can. And asking for, you know, just asking for continual communication about what's happening. But, you know, I mean, not continual, but regular communication about what's happening. But yeah, just asking and planning for things to go forward, because we are not the only district that is dealing with this. So I don't see any benefit to us in kind of slowing down.
So, Rich, do we need a motion for them to purchase incidentals like the HEPA filter machines, things along those lines?
So my suggestion would be that if you want to move forward, so you know, Chris did present us a pretty nice breakdown of what was going on. So my thought would be, if everybody's in agreement with the upgrades, the motion would just be that this, you know, we recommend or that we authorize Chris to move forward with the upgrades as soon as he can. And I think that would cover us, and then that would allow Chris to do whatever he needs to do, and that would allow Lori to release the money.
Yeah.
Would somebody like to make a motion?
So can I ask Chris a question first?
You can.
Thank you. Chris, for the upgrades that we know about, the big ticket items like the ERV, do you have good quotes and information from the vendors for most of those systems? I'm talking about things that aren't the ERV, since we know that you've been working on the ERV.
I do. So for Wardsboro, as an example to start, we have 2 upgrades that need to be done on the existing ERVs that are up in the attic that service 2 classrooms and the multi-purpose room. And then we also have an additional ERV based on our engineering assessment that needs to be installed. So those are part of the upgrades for Wardsboro. And then from our engineering report for Dover, we have an ERV for front office areas where we don't have any mechanical ventilation currently, along with addressing one of the current air handlers that is located off the library. Then some of the other upgrades are the isolation spaces, doing the direct exhaust for them, making it negative pressure. The upgrades are going to be the ones that the parts are going to be a 9-10 week lead time to purchase. So I appreciate us addressing this sooner than later so we can get stuff on order.
All right. Rich, do you mind if I make a motion? Did we lose Rich?
Looks like you might be muted, Rich. He's here still.
Yeah. Chris, Mark, did you get your questions answered?
I got my questions answered. Yeah, I'm prepared to make a motion if that's the appropriate thing to do at this point.
Okay. Go ahead. You can make a motion anytime.
All right. I move that we authorize the WCSU and Director of Operations to proceed with all known upgrades to the control system for the 2 buildings.
Mark, can I make one quick suggestion?
Yep.
Could we just reference the recommended upgrades that he submitted to us? So there's just a little, and then if something else comes up, he would have to come back to us. And I think that we maybe can cover Laura's concern about, updates and stuff.
So I'm not sure which list you're talking about. If I'm looking at the document that the RVUSD HVAC review document, that the one you're talking about?
I believe the spreadsheet that was a spreadsheet that Chris sent out, and it had the cost for the Warrensboro school and the cost for the Dover school.
Yeah, Rich, I'm not sure that that was received by all the board members. I was having trouble with my email that day, and I know Bill bounced one of them back to each of the members individually, so I'm not sure the spreadsheet one made it.
It did not.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought everybody had that.
Nope. Can you send that to everyone, Rich?
Yeah, here you go.
Wait, you have to hold it a little bit closer.
Chris, is that anything that you could send out now? Or Lori, do you have that you could send out? Or Matt or Tammy or somebody that's better than me?
Post it in the chat.
I just uploaded it to the meeting documents folder that Mark put in the chat at the very beginning of the chat. You see there's a meeting documents link, and I just uploaded the 2 documents there. They start with RVED and RVSD.
I just put the link in the chat again for people.
I think I did, Mark, although I'm not seeing them there. Do I not have authority?
Give me 1 second. If you don't, I will give it to you right away.
No, it says I do not have permission.
I'll give it to you right now.
Incidental music playing in the background.
All right. You have permission for the whole current meeting folder, so just choose the proper date one.
Okay, here they come. 2 files. Start with RVSD HVAC.
Cost breakdown.
Ah.
Does that look, you got them?
Yeah, I got the spreadsheet now. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, so just to elaborate on that spreadsheet, that is the breakdown of the costs from the engineering report and from the mechanical contractors. And then what was highlighted is how I derived the numbers on the board review document for the HVAC system. Looking at the cost, it's a little bit convoluted because for the short time frame we had, the engineers and the HVAC contractors toured the buildings the same week, so one didn't go with the other one's report. So some of the items have been duplicated, and then I just used a range for the figures that each of them proposed. So what was highlighted is what I'm recommending that we move forward with, and that's how I derived the numbers on the other form.
All right, so Rich, I will, I don't think there's been a second on my motion yet, so I will adjust it to say that we allow the WCSU and Director of Operations to move forward with all recommended upgrades per the sheet.
Peter, before we go to a second, Peter, do you have that?
Yes, sir, I believe I do.
You want to read it back and just make sure, Mark, it's good?
Okay, Mark, cover your ears. Move to authorize WCSU and Director of Operations to proceed with recommended HVAC upgrades per the HVAC cost breakdown sheet.
I'm good with that.
Okay, so do I have a second on that from the board?
Second.
Was that Laura?
Yes.
Okay. Lori, is that motion okay to allow you to write checks and stuff? Okay. So we have a motion and a second to do the upgrades. Is there any discussion from anybody? And I did something wrong, but when I went down, I don't have all the chat stuff anymore.
On the bottom of your screen, there's a little bubble icon. It should say chat under it. If you click that, it should bring it up.
I am clicking that, and it says Zoom group chat, but I have nothing in it. I lost the other stuff. It's not important. So we have a motion on the floor in a second. Is there any discussion?
I just one comment, not making it part of the motion, but Chris, can you give us an update for each of our board meetings? I think our next one's September 5th or 6th, something like that.
Oh, I feel like we're gonna need to meet before then.
Okay,
Sure.
So Chris, can you just give us an update for each of our board meetings?
Yes.
Thank you.
Somebody from WCSU will definitely be giving us updates. Believe me, you. Okay, is there any other questions? Hearing none, Matt, we all good? No questions from outside? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Rick, are you an aye?
What's that? No, I'm an A.
You're a nay? Okay. So we need to do a roll call vote. So I'm going to call you off and just ask you to vote. Peter, you ready? Mark? How do you vote?
Yes. Aye.
Aye. Kate, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dwight, how do you vote?
Aye.
Rick Thorpe?
Nay.
Laura Sebelia?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Laura, what?
Yeah, aye.
Aye. Okay, so if the chair's vote goes with the majority, so it is a 5-1 vote in favor. So I believe the ayes have it. The ayes have it, so we will move forward. So I think we've pretty much discussed ventilation ad nauseum. Is everybody all set? Is there anything that we need Chris for anymore? Or are we okay? Chris, I think if you take off, you're okay.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris, for everything.
Before I got booted off for a few minutes, Tom Oakley, I believe, had a couple comments. One, to try to see if we could start looking for an alternative place to have school, I think was one of his comments. If I got that wrong, Tom, go ahead and send us a message. And I think that was it. So if we're all set, we have Lori here. I'd like to go to the financial process and update, the audit update, and the pay warrants while Lori's here. You want to start, Lori? Unmute yourself.
All right, sorry about that. So at the last meeting, I believe you asked for a document that shows the accounts payable process. This is part of our procedures that we are actually audited on. We give them to our auditors. So what you have in your packet is what happens from the time a teacher or a staff member puts in a requisition all the way through to the accounts payable check is written and sent to the vendor. So does anybody have any questions about that process?
No, Lori, thank you. That was exactly what I was looking for.
Great. Okay. Let's see. The other, what was the other item you had?
Was there any, hang on, Lori, was there any other questions about the process and the form, Lori? Is everybody good with that? Okay, thumbs up. I see there's no comments. Lori, you're going to do the audit next?
Sure. So we're still finishing up some loose ends on the fiscal year 19 audit for Dover. And then we'll be moving into the fiscal year 20, which is a River Valleys audit. That audit will take place in October. But we really need to finish up the loose ends. We're pretty close on the end of the Dover one. COVID, the auditors not being able to come had put them behind in that. So as soon as I'm able to get those numbers, which will be opening figures for 20, then I'll be able to give you a better idea of where you stand. I have given you some information, but I really don't want to give you any more information until we have solid numbers starting fiscal year 20. Does that make sense?
Hang on, go ahead, Mark.
So, Rich, I saw that you're on the agenda for the select board tomorrow night in regards to an $8,800 overpayment. Can you just tell us what that is?
Do you want me to explain that, Rich?
Sure.
Okay, so in fiscal year 18, I'm not sure how many of you remember, but there was there was a healthcare recapture. So we went to new health plans through VHI, and the state felt that we would be saving a lot of money, so they decided to do a recapture. So they took money back out of the ed spending. That didn't make it all the way through. So what happened was the Dover School District, or the Dover town, paid the taxes, the tax bill to the Dover School District, and then forgot about the recapture. And so they basically overpaid the taxes to the school district by $8,800. So that was in fiscal year 18, and it wasn't picked up on until this year with the audit. So it didn't happen in 19. So it basically, there is no more Dover School District. So we really would like the town to forgive that $8,800.
And that's what I'm gonna go ask them to do tomorrow.
Make sure they say yes, Rich.
I can't make sure of anything. We all set with that on the audit? And then also, Lori's also working on, and Lori's done a great job with Marco. For some reason, and I don't know if it's because we're not dealing with him anymore, Sullivan and Powers has not been getting back to people. So Lori lit a little bit of a fire, and we're hoping that we can move this right along and hopefully within the next month or so be able to close some books so we can actually see where we stand. And again, you know, kind of Mark, your question earlier, you know, where's all this money going to come from? You know, do we have a surplus? Do we have a deficit in what we need to spend? So thank you for all that work, Lori, and thank you, Marco, even though you're not here. Lori, do you want to go over pay warrants?
So I think that it's just the board needs to approve the last pay warrant. I believe, because you didn't have a meeting at the beginning of the month, we went ahead and put them out to board members to sign off on, because there were things in there that, you know, you're going to get late fees on. So we did that. So you need to approve the last, just trying to pull up the numbers here. Last AP. Sorry. Okay.
July 31st to August 3rd?
Yeah, that's the one. Do you have that number in front of you? I have the wrong spreadsheet.
Yeah, I already approved that.
Right, so the full board needs to approve that. Do you have that number there, the full board's number?
56,762.53.
There you go, that's what we need.
$56,762.53.
So I'll move that we approve pay warrants for $56,000, the number Rich just said.
56,762.53.
That's it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Rick seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it seems pretty unanimous to me. It is unanimous. The motion carries. Lori,
Yes.
is there anything else from you?
No, but I'm happy to stay on. So go ahead and.
Okay. So let's go back. Matt, is there anything from any of the public? Did we lose people? Because I don't show anybody anymore. Okay.
No hands raised and no new chats that I can see.
Okay, let's move back up to old business. Mark sent out an email for the tech RFP that he'd like us to sit on that for another meeting so he could spend a little time reviewing that. Was that correct, Mark, or was that something I dreamed?
No, you didn't dream that. Yeah, this month has just been, this past month it was just really busy and I didn't get to it.
Peter, can you just make sure that that's in the minutes that we need to put that on next month's agenda?
Aye, sir.
Okay. Laura, do you want to do any kind of update on the weighting study, or is that nothing new to say?
It is not a dead issue. I think that's all I'm going to say at this point.
Thank you. Any comments on that, everybody? Okay. Okay.
I'll just,
oh, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say the VSBA did send a letter to the chairs of both education committees, Ways and Means, and Finance. Laura, do I have that right?
Yeah.
Requesting that action be taken in this session. We'll see where that goes.
Richard,
Okay.
I'm sorry. May I actually just have 60 seconds on this?
Sure.
Only because I have gotten a number of comments from an individual who watches our meetings but has not come to our meetings. And so what's important to know about the weighting study is that Dover in particular has been leading, pushing to get that study done for more than a decade. Implementation of that study, the corrected weights that are in there, would cause us to see a decline in property taxes around the state, and the ability to increase spending in rural and poor districts. So right now we are seeing that rural and poor districts have to pay more to provide less, and as do their taxpayers. So thank you, Richard.
And if I could add just one comment to that, it's a particular problem because of COVID. The lack of equity is causing some districts, including our neighboring town, to have to cancel pre-K due to lack of resources. So it's a really important issue.
Laura's going to beat them up when she goes up north. Okay, if there's nothing on that, let's go to the food service update, Matt and Tammy. You were going to hire a person, and are you all set?
Sure, I can speak to this. So we have offered the position to a person, and we are in the process right now of getting a letter of agreement written up through HR. So that's where that stands.
Okay, and even if school opens or doesn't open, we're still going to do lunches will come out of the Dover school, correct?
Correct. They will just need to be transported somehow.
Okay, so then you guys will just kind of weigh in on that later on, or let us know how that's going.
We can definitely update you as it arises.
Any questions or comments? Everybody good with that?
I'm good.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Okay. Next thing, we had just a brief summer school. How did it go? Matt, if you want to just give a thumbs up. or if you want to make any comments, it's up to you, buddy.
I have not had a chance to wrap up with the summer school teachers yet since the end. So if we could put that off till the next meeting, it would give me a chance to get a better wrap up from those guys.
Okay, Peter, just make sure that shows up for next meeting too, please. Thank you, sir.
Got it.
Okay. Brochure update. I know Laura had made a comment she wanted to see Southern Vermont more prominent in the brochure. Did anybody do anything with that, or is that?
So that's me. I have that. I have not changed it yet, but I will. And also we want to change the website to indicate how Mark recommended that it read. And then some items in the IB logo branding have changed that will require us to change our school IB logo, that nice global image that we have that we've enjoyed for a couple of years. So I'm going to work on that and try to come up with a new logo and get all that stuff tied together, hopefully by the end of September.
Okay, so Peter, can you make a note that we're going to have a brochure update in October, the October meeting?
Got it.
Thank you. Is there any other comments, any questions, anybody? Okay, I don't see anybody. Moving along, Zoom update. I want to, Mark has been a real proponent of doing, having the district go into buying a package for an education because Zoom was more secure and met a lot of the FERPA and HIPAA and a bunch of other initials that we're all not sure what it all means. So at the Wyndham Central meeting, which I believe was a couple weeks ago, it was the end of July, I'm sorry, I think July 22nd or 29th, we did vote as a supervisory union to buy the package. And I believe I heard Mark and Bill having a conversation before the meeting started that the package is supposed to be in next week. Maybe Lori, I don't know, do you know, or Matt or Tammy know any? Go ahead, Lori.
Yeah, I think next week it should be up and running, and it is a more robust when you buy it, the membership for it. So,
Mark, I see you gone away, but thank you for all your hard work on that and a pat on the back.
I'm glad that we got that going.
Okay, so I have no other old business. Does anybody else on the board have any old business? Laura's smiling ear to ear, so she must have got a good message.
no, I was just going to say, and I'm going to code it to COVID. So just.
Oh, cool. Under new business, we covered pay warrants in the financial. I'm going to skip administrative update on fall school opening, and I'm going to move to something that Mark asked us to do. So VSBA sent us out two policies that they wanted us to look at. The two policies are D22, modes of instruction during state of emergency. And the second one is A25, delegation of authority during state of emergency due to COVID pandemic. So just so everybody knows, we are still, the governor at his press conference last week did extend the state of emergency for another month. At Wyndham Central, we did not adopt the policy, but what we did do was we gave the superintendent authority to operate the schools or not operate the schools at his best discretion, and that he would notify the boards of any decision. And we did that because number one, we've been trying to have, we've always felt less is more with policies. And number two, that we believe that our superintendent has our best, he's going to be the one who's going to be on the ground and he'll be making decisions in real time. We as a board meet once a month and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But we don't get together often enough to be able to cover a lot of this stuff. So I know, Mark, you want to make some comments, so I'm going to let you have the floor first, and then anybody else.
So the VSBA felt that the policy was important because there are a number of superintendents throughout the state who didn't feel that they had the authority to make those decisions. I believe that Bill believes that he has the authority already, that we've given him enough, that we don't need to have that policy. But I think it's up to the board as a whole whether to make it official with a policy or continue with the kind of undocumented permission that we've given to superintendent.
So what is your recommendation, Mark?
I wish Bill was here to tell us whether he wants it or not. Tammy or Matt, do you know how he feels about that?
That is not a discussion that I have had with him.
I'm sorry to say no, I don't know where he stands on that.
All right, I'd say let's, I personally don't think we need the policy. I would only want to put it in place if Bill felt that it was necessary. So I'd ask that we have it on the agenda for our next meeting and just ask Bill directly whether he feels he needs it.
And I did ask Bill if he needed it or not, and he did not feel that he did, the same as at Windows Central. Lori, I know Bill had prepped you a little bit for the meeting. Did he mention this one topic to you at all?
He did not, sorry.
Okay.
Did not cover this.
Matt, if you could just send him an email, and if he responds, he does, and then Mark, we can move forward. What about policy D22, which was modes of instruction during state of emergency due to COVID?
I'm muted. I personally don't see a need for that. I believe that our superintendent and our administrators have the authority to make the decision. They've put the plan together already. I don't see a need to have that policy personally.
So I'm sorry, guys, because I keep losing the screen. So there's the two policies that we had, the policy D22 and A25. Mark does serve on the VSBA board, and that's why I'd asked him for his recommendations. Is there anybody on the board that feels differently and feels that we need to adopt one of these policies or both of them? I see nobody moving, so I think Laura's sleeping, but I'm not sure. No, she's not. Okay, so if you're all good, guys, I'm going to move on to instructional disposition.
Matt, are we, Matt, Rich, are we going to discuss C29 at this point, or is that later?
I don't have C29, Mark. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's the equity policy.
Oh, I do have it. I'm sorry. So did everybody get C29, which is the district equity policy?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
So I'm just going to jump in and give my recommendation quickly. I do believe that we should adopt this policy. I think that we can adjust it if there are any places that the board feels it needs adjusting. I don't think we have to take it word for word, but I think that it puts into text a lot of what we've talked about previously. And I think it is a positive thing to have that as a guiding policy moving forward.
Okay, is there any comments from the board?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Laura.
So this is being asked for districts around the state through VSBA, Mark?
Yeah, it was developed because of the annual conference and the discussions that were held during the the conference. I did not see a copy of this until I think after the conference. But I personally felt that it had a lot in it that you had requested.
So I think it's great for, I think it's a great policy for our district, for the 2 buildings and students from 2 towns that we are tasked with educating, and that our taxpayers are tasked with funding. But as a statewide policy, it makes me very concerned just about kind of shifting. And I don't know that that would happen. I don't know that that will happen, but it makes me concerned about yeah. No,
So,
I guess it's probably I think it's probably okay. I'm just thinking about this in the context of our financing, but I think it matches, having read it.
what I'd say is that the VSBA is recommending this for districts and SUs. If you have concerns about a state level issue, then let's talk about it and I can bring it up the next VSBA meeting. But I agree with you that for our district, it's a positive thing.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good. Thanks, Rich.
Any other comments from anybody else? My only comment was the second sentence talks about geography. And, you know, I think we beat up equity quite a bit earlier this year because of, and I thought we had some pretty good stuff. This is a recommended, not a required policy. And we've, you know, we definitely have been on the less is more. And I think even Rick and Dwight had mentioned that was the same in Wardsboro previous to that. And my thing is, I'm really upset with this because geography is a huge issue. And, you know, that's a whole weighting study in the rural students. And, you know, I'd love to see every legislature sign this before it got down to the school board level and say that they'd agreed on geography, because I don't think we did that. And I think it's beyond our control. But I don't think we do. And I think we take a lot away from a lot of our students because of geography. And I was very angry when I read this, that, you know, this is something that I would see the legislature do. You know, we strived and we have worked very hard at our local level and at what we can control to make this work. But it seems like, you know, as you go higher up the totem pole, there's less people that really feel that way. Everybody's worrying about their little fiefdoms, and I think, you know, a lot of our students in this area are being unfairly treated. So if somebody would like to make a motion we would have to warn this policy and would have to be posted for a couple weeks. And then the only other part of it on the back side, there would have to be something filled in. And we would ask Bill at the next meeting to maybe you know, fill something out, how to identify how he's going to identify outcome indicators and how often he's going to report them out to us.
So I'll make a motion that we, what's the proper?
We warn.
That to warn policy C20, warn policy C29. I don't know how you want to include what Bill needs to add in. I think quarterly would be more than often enough, but he's going to have to determine the metrics.
Okay, we don't have to make the metrics, Mark. You just have to put, you know, monthly, quarterly, or annually. So you're going for quarterly.
I'd say quarterly, yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve policy C29. Obviously, we'd say the River Valley District on the 2 front places, and on the back side to provide a quarterly status report. Peter, are you good with that motion?
I've got, we're gonna warn policy D29. Is this also approved?
No, we're not approving it, we're warning it.
So we're warning it and providing a quarterly.
Correct.
What's quarterly got to do with it?
The superintendent shall identify outcome indicators as necessary to monitor this policy and to provide a quarterly status report to the board. That's something we have to fill out on the backside of the policy.
Oh, well, in the motion to warn the policy, do we have to have that?
Yes, because that's part of the policy.
Oh, can you send me the text then?
It's Peter. It's the last paragraph of the C29 policy that's in the folder.
Okay, I'll pick it up.
Okay, so I have a motion. Peter's got it. Do we have a second to that motion? Who, Laura, did you second it? Okay. I have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion from anybody?
I'll just add that Rich, I think that, well, I agree with your comments that you made before.
Okay, Matt, we all set? Nothing from anybody? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Rick, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I'm nay again.
Okay.
Just in that kind of mood.
Aye. Okay, well, I gotta do a roll call vote again anyways. Mark?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Laura?
Aye.
Rick?
Nay.
Dwight?
Aye.
Okay, so the chair's vote goes with the majority, so it's a 5-to-1 vote. So this policy is to be posted. It's warned, it'll be posted, and at the next meeting, we will have to vote to adopt it. Matt and Tammy, you guys, can you make sure it's posted in all the obvious places? And Lori, I don't know, you'll probably see Bill before Matt and Tammy do. Can you just ask him to make sure it's posted for us? I think that's all in policy. Instructional disposition. So we've got some paperwork on instructional, and I believe you all should have had it in your packets. So is there any discussion?
Rich, which document are you referring to?
There should, for instructional disposition, I don't remember, to be honest, Mark, and I can't seem to find it in my file. Does anybody, Lori or Tammy or Matt, do you know what this one was?
Well, we know what instructional dispositions are, but I'm not sure the name of the document that came with the packet.
Yeah,
that was the one where how you're going to do your instruction, whether you do it in person, correct?
Decision making for school district operation. It's edu decision making for schools, like the file, beginning of the file.
The AOE document.
That's a July 23rd, 2020 document.
Yep.
Okay, now I understand.
Okay, so this one basically is kind of what we're discussing. Schools will have 3 instructional dispositions available to them: remote learning, hybrid learning, and in-person learning. This is what we kind of touched on earlier, that they're required to have all this set up. And then it's also closing schools for in-person instruction other than under step 1, which is there's a health order or executive order. The governor says all schools closed, or the health department does. The decision to close schools or certain classrooms for in-person instruction will be made by the local superintendent after consulting with the Department of Health. So I don't think we have to do any action, do we?
No, I don't think we have to do any action. The August 11th document, which is also in the folder, did add some additional language to it in regards to how the Department of Health will make the decision. I can pull that up and read it quickly.
I don't seem to have that one.
I don't think Bill sent that out. I added it to the folder. I emailed it to everybody in regards to, I think, one of Rick's questions about the HVAC.
Can you just tell us, Mark, what the difference is?
Yep. Give me 1 second. I got to find it. Okay, so the new language is steps will be determined for the entire state by the Department of Health based on the epidemiological data, including indicators based on symptoms, cases, hospital readiness. All schools in Vermont will operate under the same step level unless epidemiological conditions warrant otherwise.
And that's from that's from the Department of Ed, so that's
Yeah.
ways.
Yep.
Everybody good with that? Are we okay? Move on.
Yes.
Okay. Looks like everybody's good. Matt, you ready? Next thing, work rules, discussion and possible action. Lori, I believe we adopted this at the WCSU level, but we have a separate contract, so we need to go through this for ourselves.
Yes, that's correct.
And was there any change in the form we have? Then this was already sent out.
Right. There's been no changes since the WCSU meeting.
So we just need to make a motion to adopt the return to work rules.
I move that we adopt the return to work rules as presented by the WCSU.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Lori, what's the date that it says if you're unable to return to work to start the 2021 school year, please be sure to contact HR by?
Well, there was an original date of, oh, Matt and Tammy, you said it before. I can't remember exactly what date that was. August 31st. August 31st, yeah. Just got to the document.
Okay. So Mark, are we okay and Laura to put that in there? Okay, discussion from the board? Okay, Matt, no discussion from anywhere? Okay, all those in favor, please signify so by saying aye.
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 And that sounds like it's a unanimous vote. Sounds like the ayes have it. The ayes have it. That passes. WCSU Executive Committee Weekly Meeting Discussion. So I just want to let you all know that we've set up at Wyndham Central, we're going to have an executive committee meeting of the Wyndham Central Board starting on August 26th. So we asked for that from WCSU at the WCSU meeting, so that the board chairs could be brought up to date on what's going on every week. And if there's any special issues, and then the board chairs can get out to their boards and let their boards know. There are going to be warned meetings, and Peter will be doing minutes. And we've got them scheduled for 45 minutes from 9 to 9:45 on Wednesdays. And we're going to see how they go, and hopefully they'll be helpful for us. The other thing, administration update on fall opening the schools. So have we covered that enough, Matt, or do we need to make some decisions on that? And Tammy?
Well, I think you have the elephant in the room still, right?
Yep.
Okay, so what do you all want to do?
I'm going to make the, what probably is not going to be a popular motion, but I move that schools open as planned for in-person learning on September 8th. What was that, Rick?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion that on September 8th, schools open. Laura seconds that. So now we're open to discussion. Go ahead, Mark. You get to talk first.
Okay, so I want to remind everybody that it is August, September, windows are going to be open, that everybody in the building is going to be required to wear masks and social distance, and that if necessary, our superintendent still has the ability to close school to in-person and move to remote.
Okay, Laura, you have the floor second.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that Mark has just said. I would also say that I feel like parents have the ability right now to make choices for their children's safety. I feel like there are some tools that are available for staff to make choices for their safety. I feel like we're going to need to check in about this decision. I, in fact, would like to have probably, I'd like to have a discussion, Rich, about making sure that we're checking in probably at least every 2 weeks. This feels, people are working really hard. We don't have to have long meetings, but so that there is a check-in. These decisions are impossible. They are so difficult. We have placed extreme stress. We haven't placed, I mean, there just is extreme stress and pressure on our administration and our staff and on our families. Everyone is united in wanting to do the right thing. And so I would say we keep trying. And I'd like to see us check in no later than 2 weeks from today, just based on what the administrators are hearing, what Chris is finding, what we're hearing from parents. And I think we have to be fluid. There's no way for us to, no matter what, and people, you know, that may make people upset to think about, you know, like, you know, it feels a little bit like a waffling. We have to be fluid. This is, you know, this is unknown ground for all of us. There's no manual here. So I'm done.
Rich, can I just make one comment?
Well, let's see if there's anybody else first. Is anybody else like to make a comment? Go ahead, Lori.
I just want to remind everybody, you know, what Chris just said too about the work that needs to be done. So there might need to be kids out of the building on the days that the work is being done. I just want to make sure that everybody's remembering that a lot of the work he was talking about would be disruptive.
Go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Lori, to, be mindful of the disruptions on that. And then, I have a student that's going to be in a first and second grade classroom in Warrants, and I know the teacher. I think that's a really great strategy. And I think being able to spend a little bit of time together before they went remote would be wonderful, because I think, Laura, right, this is going to be a very fluid year, and we don't really know what we're in for yet. And I think a lot of check-ins and a lot of just being mindful of what's going on in the world.
You all set, Kate?
Yeah.
Dwight, you unmute yourself if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I just I agree with Laura too. I think we have to really certainly meet again prior to school openings in case anything changes based on our decision tonight. We don't know what the reaction of the teachers is going to be or students, and we could have let's just say a change in situation between now and the beginning of school year based on our decision we make right now. So yeah, just keep that in mind, and let's keep communicating.
Anybody else? And we'll go back to Mark. Matt, you have
There is one hand up in the comments, and I also would like to have an opportunity to respond. I think Tammy would too.
Okay. Don't put words in Tammy's mouth, though. She's not looking happy at you. Whoever was in the comments, go ahead and.
Sorry, it's Robin. She has her hand up in the audience.
Go ahead, Robin.
Hi. So I just kind of want to point out one thing. With our date being pushed back to September 8th, we are in an advantage that we can watch schools opening nationwide. We can see the news reports of what's happening. We can see that overwhelmingly schools are being shut down and they're being overrun with COVID cases within days or weeks of opening. We have that, and we should be using that to our advantage in saying, let's not open these schools. We do have out-of-state kids enrolling in our schools right now. They are traveling back and forth. I mean, I see it on my road every single day. And in addition to them potentially bringing COVID back from their hot spots, we also have the HVAC workers who are going to have to come in, and those people are visiting other schools and doing work as well. I think all that should kind of be taken into consideration, that we're essentially opening our children up and our teachers, especially our teachers, up to this virus and the dangers that it presents. Having that go through our community, especially here in Dover, would be pretty devastating once schools open back up. And I think that's something that you guys should take into consideration when you vote.
Thank you, Robin. Appreciate it. Matt, you and Tammy, and then I'd like to make a comment.
Thanks. There's also another community member with their hand up. If you want to let them go, that's fine.
Well, we'll put them at the fourth one. There may be other comments after our comments also.
Okay. I certainly don't want to speak for Tammy, but I do feel that I have an obligation to say that, there's nobody that wants to go back more than I do, or I think a lot of our teachers want to do. I don't feel like it's a closed door automatically for us to say if we don't start, that we won't start till the end of November. I think that there is hope, and it could be in stages, but I do feel like I have to go on record to say that I don't, in good conscience, I cannot go against the recommendation of our health officer in this case. I think we have options here. I think we can do a good job. And I would feel uncomfortable taking this risk. I don't think it's necessary risk. And the other piece that's missing is I'm at about a third of students saying that they will be remote now. I expect that to go up significantly, which will mean that we're off one day based on the idea that 20% of our students would be taking remote. We're already at 30. I expect that if we have a significant number increase of students doing remote learning, we would have to reduce the in-person days further, which would have an impact on the quality of that program. And it's just this real cascading domino effect here that I'm afraid of. So I just want to throw that out there, and certainly respect a difficult decision that you have. And I know you all appreciate the difficult decisions that we've been making now for weeks. And I just want to thank you. So.
Tammy, you're up if you'd like to.
I really don't have anything to add. I think, it's an impossible decision to make. There's so many considerations, and, no matter what we decide, somebody's going to be upset. I think, we do have to keep the health and safety of our students our number one priority.
Okay. The only comment I wanted to make is that, even if we decide to open, again, the parents all have the ability to say they don't want to send their children, and the staff has the ability to opt out for the year. I mean, that was that form we just discussed. I can just be very honest, and I am so glad that I don't have a child that I have to make that decision. I know that, a lot of us have all worked through this COVID stuff. I know exactly what Robin's talking about, because I see people come up for the weekend and then go home and then come back. And, and I've had several people call me up saying, I was at the restaurant the other night and I heard these people talking about how they're going to come up and say they're a resident and bring their child into the school. And it is scary times. But I do feel we have done the right thing to allow parents to opt out or opt in, and it's the parent's decision, and who knows best what's best for their child and the parent. I do agree with Laura, and it's on my sheet here under new business. I think we need to meet a little bit more often. Tonight we've been almost 3 hours, and we still have a couple more things to do. So I think no matter what, and we can meet on the 31st, which will still be a week before school is scheduled to start. So we can, change our decision or make another decision if we want to meet on the 31st. I also, with the more meetings, want to talk about maybe changing our meeting night so that we have our superintendent for the entire meeting during, these trying times. Most of the times we're fine without the superintendent, but I think there's a lot of stuff that, would be helpful to have him here. So I think there's a lot of stuff up in the air, and it's a really tough decision. And you're all going to get to vote in a minute. Matt, who out there wants to speak?
You have a question from Allison Young, member of the public.
Okay. Allison. Here she is.
Hi, sorry. And I apologize. I got my little top not going here ready for bed, but I did just want to point out one more thing here. You're not dealing with these high school kids, you're dealing with elementary students, and these transitions are really hard for them, and the idea that, we're going to start school and then possibly have to stop a couple of days for repairs and then go back to school and then stop because there's a COVID case. These things are huge, and it's very impactful for families as well. And while, yes, a lot of us can make the decision to keep our children at home, those remote learning options that are being offered right now, and the schools have done an amazing job, I understand that, but it's not the same as having that in-person instruction. It is different, and those transitions, like I said, that's a huge impact on the kids and the families. And I just, school boards are there for the kids and to do what's best for them. And I just wanted to point that out as well.
Thank you, Allison. I think I'm unmuted. Matt, we all good? I see Elena. Is there anybody else, Matt?
There's a question from DS iPad. It says, will there be another survey sent out to parents?
I don't know, Matt, are you planning to send another survey out?
I would think we would have to send another survey out, particularly with the new information about the HVAC system.
Okay, so, oh, DS, is that Sherman? Is she all set? Or is that? She good with that answer? Any other?
She's got another question. It says, will there be another survey sent out? Oh, no, she says thank you. There it is. Yeah.
Okay.
She just said thank you. Yeah.
Okay, Elena, you had your hand up, I believe.
Yeah, I guess I would just want to add to the conversation that it does sound like the decisions to fund the HVAC, moving forward on the HVAC is really wise. And, you know, as Laura had said before, you know, we obviously need to remain fluid this year. So, you know, while you can't take back the decision to vote to delay the start, if you vote for that, you could always meet again, depending how maybe some of the initial HVAC testing goes or the PM work to later on, you know, before school starts, and maybe give teachers more of a chance to even build like more outdoor options, things like that, that they hadn't thought of before. But it sounds like kind of if you vote to delay the start altogether, you kind of can't take that back. Whereas there is a chance to maybe wait and see a little bit just to see how the situation does unfold.
I'd like to speak again.
Elena, thank you. Dwight, you unmuted. You have a comment?
Yeah, I guess, you know, just based on that, the last person's comments, the, you know, the motion before really is to continue what we're already doing. It doesn't seem it's really not a change unless I'm missing something. And so, you know, really, you know, we really should be voting whether or not we want to delay the opening rather than voting to continue to open what we're already doing, I think, unless I'm missing something. So I'm wondering if we should delay the vote for 2 weeks based on the survey that we get, and the vote should be whether to not to delay the opening.
Okay. Any other comments?
Rich.
Mark, go ahead. And then Laura.
First, a piece of housekeeping. Elena, for the record, can you just give us your last name for the minutes?
Yeah, it's Loizou, Loizou.
Get that, Peter?
Loidou?
Z as in zebra.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you, Elena. As well as thank you for those comments. I agree with you. We have an opportunity to change course if we proceed as we have been with this vote and before. But if we chose to delay now, there would be no turning back. And how do we put a date on that, not knowing what's going on with the HVAC? Couple other things. The issue that's going on in the South, at least currently, doesn't really have any prevalence up here. There is virtually no community transmission going on in Vermont. While in the South, there's tremendous community transmission going on. As the Secretary of Education has said numerous times, we're in a position to make decisions where other states aren't at this point. And I think proceeding as we have been, given where we are as a state, is the right decision. There's no question that the students' health, the staff's health has to come first. And I don't think anybody, including myself, would be making a decision now if we felt that we were really putting people at risk. If this was in the middle of winter and we were reliant on HVAC systems, that would be a different story. But this isn't. This is still summer. And we have an opportunity to change course. The superintendent, if something comes up, can act without us. If something comes back from the PM or a test, he has the authority to close the school. So I'm comfortable that that ability is there. And while I completely understand where Matt and Tammy and, you know, basically what everybody has said, I think we owe it to our students to get them into the classroom, if for nothing else, to get the personal interaction with the teachers and their classmates so that they are prepared to do the remote learning. I won't even say if, it will be a when we have to put them in that situation. As far as the HVAC PM that has to be done, I believe that the administrators and the SU have the ability to schedule classes close if needed for a day. I don't think that we need to give them that permission. I think they have that ability to do it. And then I agree with Laura. I think we need to meet more quite often. I think at least once before school starts, and then after school starts, I think we should probably be meeting for a period of time almost weekly for short updates. I'm finished.
Was there somebody after Mark?
Me, Richard.
Go ahead, Laura.
So I want to say that I think the number one most important job that our school board has is to hire educational professionals. And it is extremely rare that I would not be in lockstep with our superintendent and our administrators. And I don't want them, so I want to be clear about what would, what I'm hoping for here. So I am hoping to see if some sort of a hybrid is possible. I am hoping to see, you know, if in fact between staff and parents, somehow that works out in a way that is doable, that our administration feels is doable. And, you know, I don't have a good understanding of like how long that type of construction might take. This will probably be the most difficult decision I have ever made on this board. So.
Okay, Matt, do we have anybody else? I got DS. Oh, here we go. Amanda Mola, can you install standalone air filter systems in each classroom? Okay, I'm gonna jump over that because, and the reason I am is because that's not, the question is, are we gonna open school on September 8th? So I appreciate the question. I understand Stanford Order 20. There is some that Chris wants to order, but let's keep on the question. The question is, the motion is to open school on September 8th. Is there any more discussion on that?
I just want to talk about this a little bit more. This is Kate. I feel like, you know, we can argue both sides of the issue. I feel like it's all right and it's all wrong all at the same time. It's one of those impossible. You know, I do have a child of that age, and you know, I think being able to get, and the transitions are so hard, and going remote last year was really tricky, but I don't know, I feel like being able to do a small window of time where they get to interact and maybe get to know the teacher a little, so you know, that's so tricky. But I don't feel like there's a clear black and white answer that, oh, this is exactly what we should do. I feel like this is just, you know, and I just hope that parents are able and also in a position to be able to make these choices, because I know not everybody is. Not everybody is able to, you know, stay at home with their child at this point in the game. And it's so tricky. I don't know. I'm very much on the fence, and I'm very much broken about this one. So it's tricky. I guess that's my big picture comment.
Rich, I just want to point out that Bill made it very clear that school will be open on September 8th. So I think we just need to distinguish whether or not it will be open for in-person instruction or not.
Well, that's the basis of the motion, is to have school open, because that's what we're discussing, you know. So, Matt, is there anybody else who's out? We'll let Amanda speak in a minute. But is there anybody else
I don't see anybody else with their hand up, Rich. Let me check the other screen. No, that's all. I see lots of people with no video, so they may be sleeping.
Okay. So the motion is to open the school for in-person instruction. Ooh, Peter, read the motion back. I don't want to put words in people's mouths.
I actually hadn't heard one, but it was a motion to open school for in-person, I think we were talking about disposition, but in-person instruction on September 8th.
That's correct.
Okay, and Laura, that's what you seconded.
I want to make sure we had a hybrid that was available. So, I mean, parents were able to have remote learning. So I want to make sure.
But that's not part of the, right, but that's not part of the motion. We've discussed that. There is 3 options that have to be offered to everybody. So I want to split the motion. Was that the motion you seconded for in-person instruction?
Yeah.
That doesn't eliminate the other options, Laura.
Right.
No, parents, if the school building is open for in-person instruction, the parents have the right to not send their child to school and to have the other option. Unless I'm missing something. Okay.
Yep.
If there's no other discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, it sounds like it's a unanimous vote. I believe it's a unanimous vote. It is a unanimous vote, so we will be open on, as of today, we will be open September 8th for in-school instruction. Okay, so Amanda Mola has, and for some reason I got this one, but I don't get other ones. Can you install standard air filter systems in each classroom like other supervisory unions are doing? Not sure if this was covered. I just got on. We ordered 20 units for Stanford School. I believe that Chris Mola did have, or Chris Mola, I'm sorry. I believe that Chris Medina did have some, in the proposal, there are some standalone air filtering systems that he was proposing. But Matt and Tammy, can you just make sure that Chris get that? And Lori, that, you know, there is some people doing that. Amanda, did you want to say something to that?
No, I just wanted to say that, you know, I know all that you guys are doing. I'm well aware. I've been dealing with it in our own supervisory union. I know how costly it can be, but I also know that we want our children in school in the safest way possible. We just placed an order for Stanford, and I know it was quite costly, but at least when it comes down to it, we'll have our kids in there with the proper air being filtered through. So if you guys didn't want to delay that any longer, that maybe that was the option. So I figured I would just put that out there for you.
Thank you. I appreciate your input, appreciate you joining us, and appreciate what you have to say. Thank you.
Richard, I just want to make sure. I believe that Chris has the authority to order those based on one of the earlier motions. Am I right?
Yes, I believe he does too. That was what we moved to, whatever the recommendations were, and there were some recommendations, including, you know, having to upgrade some of the rooms to be isolation rooms. Lori, did you?
I believe it was in the upgrade motion that those were in that he has the authority to do that.
That's what I thought. Thank you. And thank you, Amanda.
Okay, and then I got another comment. Tracy, as a teacher, I would just like to be sure that we have current data on hybrid versus in-person instruction. It will make a huge difference in what the beginning of the year looks like. I would just like to be sure that we have current data on hybrid versus in-person. And that's, Tracy, that's going to be up to the administration, Matt and Tammy and Bill. So Matt and Tammy, can you just bring that to Bill from Tracy?
Yeah, I think Matt and I will most likely develop a survey in correspondence with one another, and then we'll get that out to parents. And then as soon as we get the information back, we will deliver that to teachers.
Okay, Tracy, if you're good, can you, I don't know if you're on, I don't see you anywhere. Can you give a thumbs up? Or
I just have my video off.
Okay, so
That's fine.
I'm sorry, I talked over you.
I said that's fine. It's just, I think that the board needs to be cognizant that if we then have an influx of more hybrid learners, it may need to be a shift of staff where somebody has to take over the hybrid model and not, do in-person instruction, or we need to take a look at what other supervisory unions are doing close to us, which is, getting in on the partnership with the Vermont Collab, where they have a program already and they're training their teachers to be online instructors. If we're going to have, 50% of our students in person and 50% of our students hybrid, it's a different program for teachers. Program.
Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate your comments.
Can I ask a question, Rich?
Okay.
Matt and Tammy, has the Vermont Collaborative come up in your discussions with Bill? And if so, what have those discussions been?
Quick answer is everybody's aware of the Vermont Learning Collaborative. I would think everybody is. We use it for PD for various purposes all the time. We haven't talked specifically with Bill about using the VLC for our needs, but I do think it's important to note, Tracy makes a good point. People get master's degrees in online education. Most of our people don't have much education in online education. That's something that we constantly work on. So it may make sense for us to really try to leverage some more of those VLCs, the Higher Education Collaborative, in working toward online certifications and more online teaching credentials for our staff.
Okay, so the next thing I've got on the agenda is, Kate, don't run away. This is important. We got, so I had, like I said, I had written more meetings. Laura brought it up. Mark liked the idea. So I'd like to say, can we have a meeting? But you just have to give me a thumbs up. Oh, you captured a little one. Thumbs up. Can everybody meet August 31st?
What day of the week is that?
It's a Monday.
All right,
You good, Mark? And Rick, I didn't see you. Are you all set? Okay, I think everybody's all set. So let's warn our next meeting, Peter, for August 31st at 6 p.m. Let's have this one in the cloud. We're up in, I don't know, wherever we are. Where are we, Mark?
We're everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
Okay.
Rich,
Laura, you have more new business?
I just want to, I want to say that if we are looking to go in person, we probably should move to an in-person meeting.
No, I think for this next one, just because, let's do one more meeting this way. I know we've had a couple board members say they're not going to meet in person. The problem is, where do you meet? We had this discussion at Wyndham Central. Mark can talk about it, and I don't know if anybody else. Lori, I know you were there. We had a board member from West River saying, we will meet at the school because if we're going to send our kids there, we shouldn't be scared to go there. And the idea was, we're not scared to go to the building. We're not, but why have us, Robin had brought up the point, was all these other people are going to be coming in the building. Well, why do we want to go in the building when we don't have to? So I think we should plan on at least the next one still to be, is that what you were saying, Laura? Meeting in person?
Yeah.
So go ahead. I mean, it's up to the board. You guys make the decisions. I'm just.
It's Kate that's talking. You got Peter.
Yeah. So one of my things is that like Mondays are tricky night because Wardsboro Fire Department has the same Monday cadence as we do. And my husband's on the volunteer fire department, so Mondays are a tricky night in my family. I'm not sure if I'm ready to bring a babysitter into my home on it. So that's like, this is why online meetings are working for my family. And I agree that we shouldn't be going in the school. If I can't go in the school to drop my child off, then us as a board should not be walking into that building or they're gonna walk into the next day. So that's kind of my perspective on clouds versus in person.
Thank you, Kate. And Peter, I'll get you in one sec, but I got to tell you, this has been some hard meeting to try to run. This has probably been the worst meeting of my life, just because of the difficulty trying to keep everybody online. And oh, Matt's got other people. Matt, let me go to Peter, and then I'll get to you.
Just that when some of the people are in person and some of them are online, the minutes taker often cannot hear everybody, because there'll be like one laptop with 4 or 5 people that are socially distant. So it makes it impossible to do minutes that way.
Yeah, Peter,
Hang on,
when we
Mark,
get to it.
Mark, yeah, hang on, Mark. Matt, you're next, and then Mark.
No, I just wanted to let you know that you have a hand up in the audience, Robin, from the public.
Okay, Mark, go ahead.
So I've been researching equipment that we can use to do a hybrid meeting. And I think I've got a good solution. I've purchased a speaker for myself, which I'm going to test out, that I think we can use, approximately $200. And then there's a video system, which you can get for about $500 or $600, which I think would also solve the problem. So
yeah,
I'm just talking from bitter experience.
we also just spent a lot of money on an HVAC system that we don't know what it's going to cost us, and we don't know where we stand either. So let's just kind of keep going the way we are for the next meeting. And Peter, will you make sure there's something in the minutes about discussion going live or going to hybrid type meetings or going to the same thing we're asking the students to do. Robin, you're up.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out again, you're having a whole discussion about you guys going on a computer to have a meeting about opening school, but you're willing to send our students into this with, a not really well functioning HVAC system and a bunch of, out of state kids coming. So I think you guys should start meeting in person if you're willing to send the kids into that.
Yeah, and Robin, we made that comment, and I don't know, maybe you didn't hear it, but we don't want to be the ones that are introducing the kids to something to the kids. I have no problem meeting in person. I just won't meet at the school because I don't want to be responsible for bringing something to the school. But I do appreciate your comment, and thank you. Is there Matt, any other comments?
There's one more hand up, Allison Young, member of the public.
Okay, Allison.
Sorry, that was an accident.
Okay, put your hand down.
Sorry.
So we're gonna meet August 31st at 6 p.m. I need a motion to go into executive. Oh, Peter, before we go into executive session, do you have the only one I saw that came in that I didn't know a name to was DS, and I think that may be Dale Sherman. Do you have the name?
DS iPad, I don't.
Can DS iPad just tell us who you are?
So she wrote it in the comments. It is Dale Sherman. And she also has one more comment that I'm happy to read if you like, or you can read it, Rich.
Oh, I thought visitors were not allowed in the school building. Other district board members are not. Right, I think that's what we said, Dale. No, we agree with you. We're trying not to do that. So I think we're on the same page there. A thumbs up. I can't see Dale. She good?
She typed it before you said it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Dale. Robin, can board members meet outside? Yeah, but it'd be kind of dark now. Okay, so if there's nothing else, I'm going to move on.
Did we hit, wasn't there a request from an employee for student attendance too? Did we hit that on the agenda?
we need to move into an executive session, Kate. So I just need to do a little home house cleaning before.
That was that.
Okay, so Peter, you got everything you need for the meeting?
I do. If somebody will just send me a note about what happens after the executive session, and please don't forget to get the whole chat file. I'll pick it up when I do the recording because I had to drop out a couple of times.
Okay, who's got that file, Mark or Matt?
There is no good way to get that.
I don't have the button.
We'll just cut and I'll just, there is no way to export it as far as I know. I'll just cut and paste it and email it to you.
Yeah, there used to be a file save on these, but it's not on this one. I don't have
I have a record button.
Wait a minute, it's down here. I don't see the file save, but I also don't have the whole file because I was interrupted. Anyway.
Okay. So, Peter, if you're all set, I'd like to ask Lori and Tammy and Matt to stay with us in executive session. Laura?
Before we ask everybody to leave, may I say one thing?
You can say all the things you want as long as people stay,
So,
right?
I want to thank all the community members and the parents and the teachers that came to this meeting. It was really important for us to hear you. I hope you will continue to engage with us. I hope you feel that you were heard, and I hope you know that we want to continue to hear from you. There's no way that we made everybody happy with our decision tonight. Again, very fluid situation. So thank you for coming, and we realize how important this is for all of you.
So, Rich, are you coming back after we get out of executive session?
Yeah, if Matt can just let me back in from the waiting room.
My computer may die and I may need somebody to let me in on my phone. I'm trying to switch quickly.
Where did Matt go?
I'm still here.
Oh, Matt, you moved. Okay, so can I get a motion to enter executive session for a personnel issue?
So moved.
Mark moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dwight seconds it. All those in favor say, at 9:25. All those in favor say aye.
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 It sounds like a unanimous decision. I don't know who does what and kick people off, but
Matt has it.
I will do it. I just want you to know that I am not finding a way to save the chat.
I copied it all.
You did, but did you paste it somewhere?
Yep, an email.
Okay, so it was able to paste into an email?
Yep.
Very good. I'm going to start booting people. The waiting room is enabled.
I'm in the waiting room, Matt.
You are? Oh, I see you there, but you're also in the meeting. Do you want to be in both places or?
You'll have to let her in because she's on the phone.
Oh, I
That's
see.
that's the waiting room.
Okay. All right, I'm going to just start kicking people out. This is let's see. Who else did you say was staying in, Rich?
Lori, you, and Tammy.
Okay, and there is somebody who I believe is the author of the letter. Shall I remove that person and ask her to reconnect later?
Thanks,
Valerie, were you all by yourself in the waiting room?
No, the waiting room was locked. I couldn't get in.
Oh, okay.
Matt lost the key.
So at 9:53, by unanimous consent, we came out of executive session. Would anybody like to make motions?
Yes. Like to make a motion that is specific to the 2021 school year and only pre-K. School district accepts the pre-K tuition from sending district and does not charge for the additional hours that the student attends, which would be 25 hours. Special circumstances for this year only for schools and staff in specific relation to pre-K. This is not a precedent, and it ends June 30th, 2021. This will not be repeated for the 21-22 school year for any grades of the RVUSD. And along with any recommendations from the labor attorney.
Okay, so Mark made a motion. Matt, did somebody get to write that down? Oh, you're muted, Matt.
Sorry, I did not type it, but it is being recorded.
Okay.
Peter can get it off the recording.
Okay, does somebody want to second the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, Dwight seconds it. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it sounds like it's a unanimous decision.
Hey, Richard.
Hang on, it appears to be a unanimous decision. The decision is unanimous. Okay, go ahead, Laura. I just want to make sure that nobody objects because of that thing where we don't do the roll call if it's unanimous.
Yep.
I don't know where we are at right in terms of the meeting, if it's possible, but I have a question about an action we took earlier.
Yeah, that's fine. Valerie, you all set? Valerie, you all good?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you.
So Laura, go ahead.
So, I have a Matt and Tammy are still here. Do we have any sense, and I don't know the answer to this, do we have any sense about liability issues if we operate the school in a way that contradicts the recommendations of the COVID health coordinator?
I would need to check with Chris and probably Lori and Bill on that. I don't know off the top of my head. Good question, though.
I think it's an important question for us to know.
I'd question if we are operating that way with the building not being closed, with windows being able to be open, whether or not that actually is in contradiction to the recommendation.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's a recommendation. It's not a guideline.
I do feel like we should probably get a legal opinion about this to the extent that we can. I mean, this is also unprecedented. So.
Right.
You know what they say, you ask 5 attorneys a question, you get 7.5 answers.
We'll take the half.
Oh, just 5 answers, Matt? 10 answers.
No, my question is just to clarify Laura's question, just to say, we're asking about liability for not taking the COVID coordinator's recommendation to not start in person, right? It has nothing to do with specific airflow data or box fans.
Right. Recommended not operate until, you know, well, they have their recommendation. And if we do not follow their recommendation and someone gets sick and God forbid dies, do we have a liability?
Yeah.
So, you know, Laura, I think if there was, they're giving us the ability to make a decision, so we need to make a decision.
We did make a decision. We
did. So, I mean, I think you could rethink it. You're gonna have 100 people on Facebook saying what idiots we were. You're gonna have 100 people supporting us, and you're gonna have 50 people.
I know.
Who in the world are they? So, I mean, you know, it's just.
I know.
I've got an answer for that, Rich. Don't go on Facebook. Don't go on Facebook and read it.
I don't. So
there you go.
Hey, Kate, I got a new puppy at home. Can I trade it for the little guy?
What?
Oh, what kind of puppy?
Happy to trade. What kind of puppy? What's his name?
It's a cute one. I'll send you a picture.
You're gonna end up with a kid at your house.
Well, I know, but maybe it'll be fun to have a little kid at the house again. No, the one in your lap. I watched him go back and forth a bunch of times. It reminds me of the puppy. That's why I thought maybe we could do a trade.
Well, did you see the dog come on like 5 times too? He was mad tonight.
Yeah,
I'd like to make a motion that that we adjourn and take this conversation off record.
Okay. Hey, Laura, give me a call real quick because I'm not going to be around tomorrow. There's one thing we never talked about today.
Got it.
I'm at
Thank
my
you.
office. Hey, guys, so we're adjourned. We have a motion by Mark and seconded by Rick, and everybody go thumbs up. And thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Marathon meeting. That's why we're going to meet more often.
Rich, can you call me, please?
Call you at home.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So,
What was that, Tammy?
So thank you, and I'll see you all on the 31st.
Thank you.
Night all.
Tammy.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Matt.
everyone.
Night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.